And chat. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Root Double Before Crime After Days. We've got some revelations that we're on the heels of, or on the in the aftermath of. We've got mind goblins and brain ghosts, and mysteries upon mysteries. So let's get back to it. Excuse me. How long ago was the question? As if unlocked by the heat of the moment, another door in Natahiko's memories opened wide. After Mashiro and Natahiko decided to keep Sirius at the park, they would take care of him enthusiastically. When Yuri learned about the situation, she also worked hard to help out. In the end, Sirius didn't go hungry, which was a big relief to Natahiko. But that relief would not continue for long. One day, about a month after they started keeping Sirius, Yuri gave Natahiko and Mashiro an ominous warning. Hey, guys, have you heard? Heard what? Well, recently, healthcare center people have been rounding up stray dogs. Rounding up stray dogs? Well, they say it's part of their town beautification project, so they have to gather every last stray dog. What happens to those dogs? They say they get put down. Natahiko and Mashiro's bodies shook at those words. Serious! Natahiko and Mashiro ran through the park. Yuri stayed put since they told her it was dangerous. I mean, the child's not going to get put down. Serious! Serious! Mashiro shouted in every which way. She feared that perhaps he had already been taken away, but the very next moment... Bow! Sirius came flying out of the woods. Sirius! Ah, thank goodness. Mashiro sighed in relief. But you know, soon enough, the healthcare center will find him. Even a child Natahiko's age could imagine that. The stray dog roundup was happening all across the city, so no matter where he went, he'd be found eventually. Do you think if I asked Mom or someone we could figure something out? But they had been keeping him in the park because nobody could take him in. Even if they had made him a collar or a doghouse, the adults would see Sirius as nothing but a stray. But even so, they still couldn't just abandon him. No, Mashiro. Huh? Let's save Sirius ourselves. How are you going to do that, kiddo? Mashiro gulped as Natahiko said that. I want to too, but... But how? That's what we need to start planning out. We could never ever give up and just abandon Sirius. Because there's nothing more valuable than the treasure of life. That was another line Natahiko stole from a hero he was obsessed with at the time, but it seemed to have resonated in Mashiro's heart. Did she get the otaku stuff from him, I wonder? And the quoting anime from him? There sure isn't. We gotta do something or Sirius will die, right? Exactly. Natahiko and Mashiro nodded at each other and then looked to Sirius. Sirius, we swear we'll save you. Did I take my ADHD meds today? I don't think I did. Hang on. The dog's just happy to be included in the conversation. Natahiko remembered the serious expression on Mashiro's face back then. It didn't seem like Mashiro changed one bit since those days. Mashiro's grown and become more feminine in some regards, but I guess she's still the same as she always was. She would abide by her own kindness at all costs. As long as her conscience told her to do so, she'd go through any danger at all. So perhaps it's only natural that she'd admire June so much for working hard and earnestly for that same goal, even as an adult. As Natahiko reminisced, Salu interrupted by tugging at his sleeve. Guys. Can we go now? Lunch break's going to end. Huh? Oh. When he looked at his watch, Natsuhiko realized there were only 40 minutes left of lunch break. You guys get an hour for lunch? In my school, you only got 30 minutes. I think so, anyway. It's been a while. My bad, my bad. You must be hungry, right? Near my limit. Okay, how about we head to the roof? The three of them hurried up the stairs, leaving June behind. Lunch break ended, and thus the first afternoon class began. The man from Labo, huh? It was a special lecture from a visiting guest. Ukita? Not that guest lectures were all that rare. Rokame Academy actively contacted outside research institutions and enterprises for industry-academic cooperation. And the guest lecturer of the day was someone Natsuhiko knew very well. Good afternoon. I am a researcher at the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization. Keiji Ukita is my name. Indeed, Ukita was a staff member at Labo, just like Natsuhiko's mother. He was the guest lecturer today, as he just said. Come on, narration. Ukita seemed a little awkward and unaccustomed to giving lectures, but appeared to be in good health at least. Mashiro whispered gently into Natsuhiko's ear from the next seat. Hey, I guess Mr. Ukita's injuries from that accident weren't all that bad, huh? Seems like it. That's a relief. That said, it was quite unfortunate that he had to fulfill an extra work duty like this right after an accident. Ukita himself seemed a little uneasy about Natsuhiko and Mashiro's glances as he began to strain himself to speak. Let's see. Well, today I'm here to talk to you kids about nuclear power. This is important information that everyone living in this city should know. Nuclear power. The topic was even part of Rokame Academy's peculiar curriculum. But Natsuhiko was as bad at this subject as he was with BC, giving Ukita an excuse to exposit to the viewer. It's not like I can learn to like it. But Ukita came all the way out here for a guest lecture. So Natsuhiko thought that he might as well try to listen seriously for once today. When studying nuclear energy, one thing that one must first learn is the dreadfulness of radioactivity. It may have happened nearly half a century ago, but you all have probably heard of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster in Ukraine. It's still known today as the greatest man-made disaster in recorded history. Ukita spoke in a bitter voice. Essentially what happened is that in that incident is that the power plant's nuclear reactor melted down. Yeah, because the Russian government was running it hot to see what would happen. Basically, the reactor core suffered a meltdown and subsequently exploded, spreading as much as 10 tons of radioactive material all over the place. Yeah, the Russians discovered just how bad it was when they took the Chernobyl power plant back in 2022. Those soldiers were digging trenches in the radioactive forest. I don't know how many of them died of radiation sickness, but I'm pretty sure it was a substantial number. It was the equivalent of 500 of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima, causing enormous casualties. Really? Wait, I thought Chernobyl just, melted down, and emitted radiation. I didn't realize it exploded. No, it didn't explode. He's saying the radiation was the equivalent of 500 of the Hiroshima bomb. Okay. The residents in the vicinity and the firefighters sent in to handle the accident were hit the hardest. Over 3,000 of them died, and the number only rose after that. Even to this day, we don't know exactly how many died, but the number is estimated to be in the hundreds of thousands. Ukita's voice gradually intensified, filling the classroom with tension. And guess what? We've got one of those here in town! Except we don't really, but... Okay, here's the thing about nuclear power. When nuclear power goes bad, it goes really bad. But nuclear power is when safety procedures are actually followed, nuclear power has a better safety record than any fossil fuel. And it's really only surpassed by passive energy generation like solar and wind. If you Fukushima was at the end of its life. They weren't following safety procedures properly, and the facility was being retired for being outdated. If that tsunami hadn't happened for another year, there wouldn't have been a Fukushima disaster. Chernobyl was the result of the Russian government not following safety procedures and running it hot. And that went super wrong. The largest nuclear disaster outside of those was 3 Mile Island, which gave downtown Manhattan an X-ray. You get more radiation from a plane flight than you would have from being in New York City for 3 Mile Island's occurrence. That nuclear power has an amazing safety record. And if we want to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels and go green, nuclear power is our best bet because the waste it creates is so minuscule relatively. It's a pet issue for me, sorry. Sorry for ranting. Ukita's voice gradually intensified, filling the classroom with tension. The reason there were so many deaths is definitely linked to the radioactive material. From the explosions and fires came what we call atomic dust, which proceeded to float up into the sky, then fall back down to the earth with rain. And this is the truly terrifying part. It was not limited to just an ordinary explosion. The devastating effects spread out to the surrounding regions. The people soaked in the tainted rain developed severe fatal symptoms, neurological disorders, brain dysfunctions, genetic abnormalities, and cancer. Natsuhiko gulped as Ukita continued. With its own nuclear power plant, the city was once a luxuriously wealthy metropolis. But overnight, that very power plant made the city an inhospitable wasteland. All 120,000 residents were forced to evacuate. The effects of the pollution continue to this day, and it is said that the area will remain unsafe for another 900 years. As Ukita continued, a solemn silence spread throughout the classroom. With that out of the way, we at Labo also have a nuclear reactor for research purposes. Isn't that great, kids? In the off chance that there is a meltdown and the radioactive material spreads, there's a possibility that the very same thing could happen to this town. Those words sparked tension in the room. But Ukita soon continued. Or at least that's what a lot of people fear. But that will definitely never happen. You're bad at reassuring children, Ukita. First of all, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant had an extremely careless management structure, which is what allowed the accident to even happen. But Labo has layer upon layer of perfected systems to counter any unforeseen circumstance. And with that, Ukita fiddled with the PC at hand. Upon which, the screen displayed an image of Labo. We at Labo have a perfected system to deal with every sort of disaster imaginable. The nuclear reactor's surveillance and control is continually managed by a supercomputer, protecting it from any accident or malfunction. And in the unlikely event of that supercomputer failing, emergency shutdown of the nuclear reactor is possible from the remote control room on the surface floor. Furthermore, 3 nuclear reactor control systems with 6-fold reserve energy guarantee emergency support. In addition to the firefighting and disaster prevention systems, we also have flawless defense systems to prevent intrusion. The nuclear reactor itself is underground, and the area where it's contained is made to be particularly rugged. The reactor area could be hit by an explosion, an earthquake, or an airplane crash and still not break. In other words, a repeat of the Chernobyl disaster will never ever happen again. So please, rest assured, kids, we at Labo will not cause any sort of accident, okay? Ukita looked around the classroom as he spoke. An air of relief filled the class. Upon which, Mashiro timidly raised a question. Mr. Professor Ukita, what if an accident still manages to happen? May I take that to mean when an accident does happen, how do we handle it? Yes, I've heard that large-scale accidents have happened in the past, even here in this country. This game came out just before Fukushima or just after Fukushima? I can't remember. You guys have told me before. I think it was just before. I see. Allow me to explain then. Ukita used the PC to display a different image on the screen. First of all, modern facility construction technology and safety standards have advanced considerably compared to the past. Labo's interior walls and floors are, of course, designed to block out the leakage of radioactive material by nature, but in the unlikely event a leak occurs, the automatic radiation leakage prevention system activates. Several bulkheads and gates are installed that lock down to completely shut out the scattering of radioactive material. Furthermore, the automatic reporting systems tip the local fire station post-haste. Oh, this came out a year after Fukushima. Wait, Fukushima was 2011? I thought it was 2012. Huh. God, what is time? It's been so long already. I was only 23. Holy crap. Allowing for the immediate dispatch of firefighters and a rescue squad to contain the accident and save lives. A rescue squad? Mashiro's expression stiffened. She was probably thinking of June. But would they be okay? Lots of firefighters passed away in Chernobyl, didn't they? Well, they didn't really have good radiation protection suits. You see, in those days, they lacked sufficient knowledge and equipment to properly deal with nuclear accidents. But the situation's different now. Our city's rescue squad is trained to handle NBC disasters after all. What are NBC disasters? NBC stands for nuclear, biological, and chemical. So it's a general term for disasters dealing with dangerous radioactivity, microbes, and/or chemical substances. If we at Labo were to experience a disaster, it'd be an N disaster, that is, a nuclear disaster. Our rescue squad is equipped with protection suits that defend against strong radiation when they deploy. Also, if those in the facility become in danger of radiation exposure, we also have a drug that can neutralize radioactive material and expel it from the body. These items are the fruit of Labo's research and development and are extremely effective at life-saving. Ukita continued with a considerable force behind his voice. However, all of these things are available for us as insurance, nothing more. We at Labo have learned from the mistakes of nuclear disasters like Chernobyl, and rather than handling accidents that occur, we concentrate our efforts more heavily on preventing accidents from ever occurring. All of these insurances I've explained will most likely never need to be used for all eternity, for the next 3 days. So everything will be fine? After hearing all of that explanation, an expression of relief rose up on Mashiro's face. Sorry for asking a weird question. Not at all. If it helped eliminate any uneasiness you had, that's all that matters. Ukita himself sighed, seemingly in relief, before he continued. Anyway, with those systems as our insurance, we at Labo conduct various forms of research using our nuclear reactor. In January 2011, Yeti announced the game and said that they plan to release it in 2011. In March 2011, Yeti announced that they would not publicize the game because of its themes in the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Development was put on hold, but in July 2011, Yeti revealed that it had been taken up again and that it would be released for the Xbox 360. They had considered changing the background story of the game, but eventually decided to keep the story unchanged. Development began just before Fukushima and was put on hold when it occurred. They probably had been working on it before they announced it. I know that visual novels like this have quick turnaround, but they had probably been at least writing the story before January 2011. Anyway, with those systems as our insurance, we at Labo conduct various forms of research using our nuclear reactor. For example, one subject of research we began in recent years. Save the game. What do we have? I'm going to keep my sim values high with all three. Ukita began talking about research conducted at Labo. But Natsuhiko was completely inattentive. He couldn't get his mind off the safety measures Ukita had talked about. They better have improved their safety measures. That's the thought that came to mind. And then he recalled what June had said. Well, don't hesitate to call if something happens. Later. In the unlikely event an accident occurs, June will have to dispatch, huh? He hoped from the bottom of his heart that it would never come to that. Natsuhiko looked to the sky outside the window. The sky had been clear just a while ago, but dark clouds had covered it before he had noticed. That's a little depressing. Natsuhiko shook off that feeling and refocused on Ukita's lecture. Eventually, the 2 hours of the special lecture, including a break, came to a smooth close. That's all I have for the lecture. Thank you for paying attention, students. Except for you, Natsuhiko, because we know you didn't. And with that, Ukita left the classroom. As Natsuhiko stretched out wide, Mashiro spoke up. Hey, Natsuhiko, let's go greet Mr. Ukita. Huh? Ah, right. Now that he thought about it, Natsuhiko did remember something he wanted to ask Ukita. Okay, sit tight for a second, Salu. Mashiro and Natsuhiko left Salu in the classroom as they followed Ukita out. When they got out into the hallway, they caught sight of him walking away. Good job, Professor Ukita. Oh, Natsuhiko, Mashiro. Anything I can help you with? If you have complaints about the lecture, please forgive me. It's not something I'm particularly accustomed to. No, it's not like that at all. We were just worried if you were okay after that accident. You said your rib cage hurt, after all. Thanks for your concern. However, they took an X-ray at the hospital and everything looked okay. I'm actually almost grateful, since I was able to use the accident as an excuse to take 2 days off from work. Yeah, must have been nice. I say that, but I took a week vacation to recover from the surgery that I had on my sinuses, and I went stir crazy without streaming or uploading content to YouTube. It drove me nuts. Go figure I turned into a workaholic, right? Thank goodness. I was so worried. Natsuhiko cut in as Mashiro sighed in relief. By the way, Mr. Ukita, what is it? After the accident, you said that strange things might start happening to me, didn't you? Ukita's expression stiffened at those words. Now that you mention it. Yeah, I did indeed say that, didn't I? What did you mean by that? Yes, well... After a short pause, Ukita spoke in a subdued voice. Well, actually, this is nothing more than hearsay, but... There's apparently been an increase in those that harbor anti-communicator sentiments in town lately. Huh? No way! But Rokame City's supposed to encourage BC research. Yeah, why would people move here if they hate communicators? It's not as if everybody shares that sentiment, though. Natsuhiko used such powerful mass-untargeted telepathy in the middle of town. According to a friend of mine, they could apparently hear that get away from there from as far as a kilometer away. Holy shit, Natsuhiko! A kilometer? Indeed. I was worried that if some of those BC haters heard that telepathy, they might harm you. Okay, how would they find out it was me? So that's what it was. Natsuhiko shuddered a bit at the unexpected answer. Wait, how would you be worried about that? If you were right there and didn't know that it was heard a kilometer away? Outside of the school, use of BC was prohibited by city ordinance. They were taught that the reasoning behind the ordinance was for manners, so that they wouldn't surprise other people. But perhaps the real reason was so as to not provoke the townspeople. Oh no, a few days ago I used telepathy to stop a bus, too. Now that you mention it, that was mass-untargeted telepathy, too. No, calm down, you two. It's only dangerous in the case of powerful telepathy. Normal telepathy from normal communicators shouldn't be that much of an issue. It's not that much more of a nuisance than shouting really loudly, after all. I see. Thank goodness. I forgot to close Poke Clicker. Save X. That said, it still wouldn't hurt to be careful, especially you, Natsuhiko. So, Natsuhiko, you haven't been recklessly using telepathy after that, have you? Recklessly? No. It's a different situation with Natsuhiko, Ukita. No. Actually, I haven't even been able to use it once ever since. That one time was more like a fluke than anything. I see. Maybe there's no need to worry then. Ukita's expression relaxed, and he continued. Well, I think it might just be me needlessly worrying, but still, keep it in mind. Now then, I'll be heading back to Labo. I've still got some of my real work to do. Okay, thank you. Good job with the lecture. Mashiro High. Ukita waved his hand at Natsuhiko and Mashiro's farewells as he left the hallway. Now that was kind of ominous. Gee, you think? Yeah, it's amazing how that telepathy of yours reached as far as 1 kilometer, though. Yeah, that's way bigger than I was thinking. Mashiro Point, excellent. At any rate, it'd be best to hold back on untargeted telepathy use. True, I've been a little careless myself. Mashiro sounded a little bit frightened as she spoke. You worried, Mashiro? Huh? It'll be fine. Mr. Ukita said so himself, right? I mean, he said that normal telepathy isn't that much different from yelling really loud. Yeah, I know. Why do you ask? Did I look that uneasy? Little bit. A little. What? Don't tell me you were worried about little old me. Excuse me. I guess. That was a little blunt. You're kind of throwing me off here. What's wrong with me worrying about you? Mashiro suddenly smiled as she heard that. Natsuhiko, it has to be just about the only part about you that... Right as Mashiro started to speak, she heard a voice from behind. Hey, you two, what do you think you're doing out here? Afternoon homeroom's about to start. She turned around to see Enna. Okay. Natsuhiko and Mashiro rushed back into the classroom. And then, after an ordinary homeroom came to a close, school ended. Mashiro, Salu, shall we head home? Okay, let's go, Salu. 1 second, guys. And together they left the classroom, all the while ignoring the clamor of voices, both real and telepathic. School's over, Shin. Shall we head straight up to the roof? Yeah, sure, Benizaki. But come on, you can say that without using telepathy. Where's the harm? I'm sure at least a few people enjoy listening to us. You think so? There are. I know I do. Huh, who are you? You know, the guy always playing baseball in the sports grounds. They call me Pitcher Tanaka. Literally who? Forget it. Just get to the roof already. Okay. Whoa, there's already a huge crowd here. They're all just nosy. Everyone's got too much time on their hands. You guys have been broadcasting this whole deal for days. Of course kids are going to show up. Is Mr. Nameless going to show up? How's the roof? I can't see from here. Someone go check. Roger, this is Pitcher Tanaka. One girl is on the roof. There is no boy. That girl must be Miss Munakata, eh? So Mr. Nameless hasn't shown up? He couldn't show up with such a crowd gathered here. You know, he's shy and all. Oh no. Then that means it'll all be for nothing. Hey, all you onlookers, scram! Everyone who gets in the way of love should get kicked in the mouth by a horse and die. Oh no, they're not scramming at all. Miss Munakata looks really uncomfortable. And that's where I come in. Hello everybody, it's Angel Kamiya, etc. Wait, hold on a sec. What's with that timing? This isn't where you come in at all. Back off. No, let me talk first. There's something I want to say to Mr. Nameless. Okay, I approve. Speak your heart out, Angel Kamiya. Thank you, foolish stranger. Now then, you listening, Mr. Nameless? As the Light Music Club's hack of a vocalist, I've been showered in the scorn of the entire student population, and yet still I sing. But do you know why? It's because no matter how much they laugh, there's still something I want to get through to them. And I'm sure there's something you want to get through to Miss Munakata, no matter how many people look at you funny. This is neither the time nor place to shy away. Go now, or you'll never forgive yourself. He actually said something respectable. Now, if only he'd worked that hard to actually sing properly. But Kamiya's right, Mr. Nameless. If you don't go now, Miss Munakata will be the only one people will look at funny, you know? So come out here and save her already. Yeah, that's a really good thing to say. That might actually be why all the onlookers suddenly went quiet. Here's your chance, Nameless. Go for it. Show her you're a man. Ah, look, someone's stepping forth from the crowd. What? Could that be Mr. Nameless? Everybody shut up. Dead silence. It's happening verbally and we can't hear it. How long did you expect to make me wait? I'm sorry. Well, whatever. Anyway, so that's what you look like, huh? People often make fun of me for looking like a girl. I can tell. Fortunately, she's a lesbian. More importantly, Miss Munakata, our telepathy. Huh? Everyone can hear it. It's embarrassing. A little late for that now, but you're right. Let's speak in our own voices now. The whole crowd goes, oh man! Okay. Did everyone hear that conversation just now? I didn't! I want to know! Yeah, now that's youth for you. Yep, that's youth. Huh? I didn't hear. Can someone give us an update? Nah, I'm not that tasteless, man. Oh, I'm so touched. What a grand scene, Angel Kamiya. I'm impressed. Okay, everybody, here we go. A song from the Light Music Club to our future couple. Myself, Yourself. Like I said, play an original song for once. Well, whatever. We can let it slide for today. As they passed through the hallway, Mashiro asked the other two a question. Hey, should we go drop by somewhere on the way back? Nah, let's head straight home today. Sure, Chapter. I agree. I just want to enjoy a chat over a nice dinner with you all. Oh my, that's a cute thing to say. Well, we've been going out every day lately, so let's just relax a bit at home today. Yeah. Unlike yesterday's trip back from school, today was strangely calm and relaxing. Well, it won't stay that way for long, based on the preview we had of this chapter. So much so that they almost completely forgot about what Ukita had said. When they left the school building, it was dim and gloomy outside. Looks like it could rain any second now, huh? Natsuhiko looked up to the sky in response. And sure enough, it looked like it could start pouring any moment. Oh boy, I hope we can at least make it home before it starts raining. The moment Natsuhiko had that hope, it started pouring. Drop by drop, the rain began to fall. Ah, crap, it's really starting to fall. Now that sucks. I didn't bring an umbrella. Let's get on the bus. It should be here soon enough. So, speaking of telepathic music, I saw the funniest thing the other day. So there's this big Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef going on in the rap world to date when this stream comes out. And, there's a big Let's Player, well, medium-sized Let's Player, called Pat, who is formerly of Two Best Friends Play, currently of Castle Super Beast. He goes by Pat Stares At on Twitter. He makes some good stuff. He's a fun personality. He's also got imagination problems and memory playback problems. Like, when he remembers music, he hears it in his own voice, mimicking what was said, and the instruments and everything. Like, he can't picture music in his head, and he has that problem with a few other things. Like, he didn't know much about the creative process for making art, for example, because he has problems with imagination. Which means that the fact that he's super invested in the Kendrick-Drake beef and is listening to the music and getting really into the music means that he is listening to Kendrick's disses in his own voice, which is incredibly funny to think about. Anyways, let's get on the bus. It should be here soon enough. They looked at the bus stop in front of the school just as the bus began to arrive. Oh, good timing. What a lifesaver. And the three of them boarded the bus as they chatted amongst themselves. It was a little crowded inside. There were probably other people who rushed to board the bus after the rain started to fall too. Natsuhiko let Salu and Mashiro sit in the seats and stood next to them. Oh, if only the weather were nicer. I would have liked to go out for a while. Oh, excuse me. Okay, Salu, hi. Huh? What, more shopping? I mean, Salu still doesn't know this town at all, right? I did look around a little on the first day, but I admit I still don't know that much. I see. I guess you're right. Point with Salu. Good. Natsuhiko thought for a second before speaking. Well, the day after tomorrow's a Sunday, so how about we go around town then? Ah, sounds good. Mashiro's eyes gleamed at Natsuhiko's proposal. Usually, Natsuhiko spent his Sundays with Yuri, but just this once probably wouldn't hurt. Well, that said, there's nothing really to see in terms of tourist attractions. It is kind of an odd city, after all. That's fine. Then how about we go look at some of the research facilities that allow it? Also, if at all possible, there's a little more shopping I'd like to do. Huh? Did you think of something you want to buy? Books. I did bring just one book from home, but I want more. Huh? Just one book? Did you not bring anything else? Anything else? You mean like everyday necessities? No, not like that. I mean, did you bring anything like keepsakes of your home or anything? Nothing. Huh? Really now? Natsuhiko was a little surprised to hear that too. If I were 13 and moved away from my family to a faraway country, I think I'd get pretty homesick. I don't harbor that sort of emotion at all. I have no particular attachment to my hometown. I see. Then what do you think about this town? Think you can get any emotional attachment here? Hard to judge. I don't know for sure if I like it or hate it. Oh boy, that's kind of blunt. Well, she just got to Japan recently, so she can't tell for certain if she likes it or hates it yet. Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, let's just set that question aside for now. But still, regardless, I would like to go shopping, with you too. I see. Then pardon me for being forward, but allow me to pick some titles from the 90s golden age of sci-fi for you to try. There are so many legendary titles to choose from, like Neon Genocide Vangel and Ghost in the Core. Fair enough. I've never heard of those titles. Very interesting. Those weren't books, but anime titles. But Natsuhiko didn't have the heart to say it. Natsuhiko, is there anything you want to buy? No, not in particular. That's a little boring. I know, let's pick out clothes for Natsuhiko this time. Huh, no, you don't need to. Why not? You've actually got some nice looks to start out with, so you can't let it go to waste by being plain all the time. Whoa there, you don't want to make me your next dress-up doll, do you? She sure does. I guess you could look at it that way, too. Natsuhiko smiled wryly at Mashiro's playfulness. But he had to admit, going shopping as a group did seem like fun. Well, fine. I guess it might be nice to go shopping every now and then. Okay, so the day after tomorrow, we go around the city and go shopping too? I'm sure it'll be fun. Oh man, can the day after tomorrow come any sooner? What day was the disaster on? Was it on Sunday or Monday? I think it was Sunday? Yeah, because there's 2 days left. As soon as Mashiro said that... excuse me. Her eyes opened wide as if she had noticed something. Did Yuri just appear behind me? What's wrong? Natsuhiko called out to her dubiously. But Mashiro didn't answer. Far from it, she just stared straight ahead without saying a word. Her face just froze abruptly. Are you okay? Something was clearly wrong. Natsuhiko got worried and whispered to her. Hey, Mashiro. Hey! That's when Mashiro slowly turned back and looked at Natsuhiko as if she had come back to her senses. Natsuhiko. What's wrong? Did something happen? She got a visit from Yuri. Mashiro looked around the bus, stammering. What's wrong? Natsuhiko looked around the bus too, but he didn't see anything happening. Everyone was just sitting quietly in their seats. Honestly, what's wrong? Mashiro didn't answer for a while, but eventually she spoke with a smile. Sorry, it's nothing. No, tell me! You call that nothing? Actually, I had the feeling someone told us to shut up. Huh? Oh yeah, I guess we did get a little carried away. Oh no, I'll reflect on my actions too. Yeah, let's bring it down a notch. That said, Natsuhiko was actually relieved at Mashiro's answer, which was a lie! The three of them then quietly waited to reach their destination. Once they got quiet, the bus was filled with silence. But occasionally, Alice would faintly growl. Aside from that, the bus was silent. Welcome home, everyone. Prophecy! When they got back to the house, they were greeted by Yuri. We're home, Yuri. Man, it was so terrible because of the rain. Mashiro already seemed back to her cheerful self. She spoke as she headed towards the kitchen. Okay, I'll start making dinner. I'm going all out today, so sit tight. And with that, Mashiro made spaghetti with an elaborate sauce. Dinner that day ended peacefully, but after dinner, as Natsuhiko put the dishes away, Mashiro whispered to him with a meek look on her face. Say, Natsuhiko. What is it? There's something I want to talk about. You got a moment? Huh? What is it? Is it what spooked you on the bus? I'm sorry, but it's a little... Mashiro glanced at the sofa. Yuri and Salu were relaxing there, reading books. Is it something that'd be bad if they heard? It wouldn't be bad, it's just that I don't want to make them worry. Natsuhiko didn't have the slightest idea of what Mashiro was trying to say. Okay, let's go to my room. And with that, Natsuhiko led Mashiro to his room. That is the wrong lead. Go ahead, Mashiro. Pardon the intrusion. Mashiro shyly entered after being invited in. So, what did you want to talk about? Well, I'm really not sure if I should talk about it or not. Will you promise to believe me if I tell you? Yeah, of course. Thanks. Mashiro replied, then meekly whispered. Okay then, Natsuhiko, listen closely. Before long, someone in the city is apparently going to attempt an act of terrorism. What? Natsuhiko doubted his ears. He never expected to hear the word terrorism. Terrorism? Mashiro, under no circumstances is that... I'm not joking. I'm serious. I'm sorry. I promised I'd believe you. But what makes you say that all of a sudden? Remember how I suddenly went quiet on the bus back home today? Huh? Oh, yeah. Now that you mention it, that did happen. 2 minutes of gameplay ago. Mashiro said she'd heard someone complain about their noise level. I do remember, but what about it? What I heard back then wasn't shut up. It was someone talking to themselves about something much more terrifying. Oh, you used empathy, huh? One of the passengers was muttering to himself. He was so quiet that I didn't quite catch all of it, though. What did he say? Communicators are an abomination. Have to put an end to this town's history. D-Day is near. That did indeed sound like a hint to a terrorist plot. I was startled. I panicked and tried to listen more closely, but then the man fell silent. I thought that maybe I might have misheard him, but I still couldn't get it off my mind. It's kind of frightening me more and more. Mashiro's voice oozed with fear. Her face was pale, and her shoulders shook little by little. There was something strange about her. Hey, Mashiro, are you okay? Of course she isn't, Natsuhiko. I'm okay. I just got a little scared remembering it, that's all. But more importantly, I've been thinking. Maybe that man is one of those anti-communicator extremists they've talked about on the news. Natsuhiko had also heard about those extremists. For one of them to be muttering to himself sounded a little eerie, but believable enough. Perhaps this incident also had something to do with how Ukita had said there was a rise in people who did not like communicators in town. Did you see his face? No, I didn't really get a good look. But if I see him again, I'll know it's him for sure. Mashiro focused hard on Natsuhiko as she spoke. So, we're the only ones who've noticed this, aren't we? So in that case, we gotta thwart the terrorism ourselves. Oh, that is such a bad idea, Mashiro. We can go to the authorities. Hell, we probably told Enna. Whoa, calm down there, Mashiro. Just because he said that to himself doesn't necessarily mean he's a terrorist, you know? Huh? For example, if someone said to themselves that they wanted to kill someone, that doesn't mean they'll actually go out and murder them, right? That's not it. He was an honest-to-God terrorist. What makes you so sure? Well, the eerie muttering was pretty conclusive, Natsuhiko. Because he... Mashiro swallowed her words. She seemed unable to find how to continue. See? You don't have any basis to make that accusation, do you? Even if he really were a terrorist, there's nothing we can do to thwart him, is there? So you're saying we should just leave him be because there's nothing we can do? We don't know who it was, Mashiro. We can tell the adults, but... No, I'm just saying we are nothing but high school students. There's no need for us to go out and try to stop him ourselves, is there? Natsuhiko, are you serious? Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not like my first instinct to hearing this story would be, well, let's go and stop him, would it? In his heart of hearts, Natsuhiko did not truly believe Mashiro's story. But he spoke gently so as to not hurt her feelings. If it really bothers you that much, you should report it to the police or the city security department. That's the best we can do. What comes next doesn't concern us. Of course it concerns us. Our town is being targeted, you know? There might be something we could do besides just sending in reports. You are 16, Mashiro. Don't wait for someone else to protect what you hold dear. Protect it with your own hands. Isn't that right, Natsuhiko? Serious flashback time. Natsuhiko was a little shocked. Mashiro's words sounded a little melodramatic to him. What's that? Another one of your favorite quotes? Huh? You said it, Natsuhiko. About serious. Haven't I told you before? Just because you think something is right doesn't mean it's right to do it. Self-righteousness just leads to danger. But when Mashiro heard that, she just smiled sadly. Natsuhiko, you really have changed. No, I haven't. I've always been like this. No, you have changed. Even though I tried to stop you back then. Back then? He could not for the life of him remember what she was talking about. If something like that did happen, it must have been far in the past. Ah. Eventually, a door to Natsuhiko's memory opened. That's right. It was that day 9 years ago. When I tried to go somewhere with Yuri. And Mashiro tried to stop me. The conversation they had in the distant past came back to life in his heart. Stop it, Natsuhiko. It's dangerous. You shouldn't go to a place like that. Huh, what's wrong, Mashiro? You chicken? Well, fine. I guess I'll just go ask Yuri then. What's that supposed to mean? Lately you've been Yuri this and Yuri that. What? Don't tell me you're jealous. But you're just a tomboy. Fine. I don't care about you anymore, Natsuhiko. Go buzz off with Yuri and see if I care. I shook off Mashiro's warning and we still went there. And because of that, Yuri died in a fire and implanted her brain ghost into you. Natsuhiko's pulse intensified and his breathing became rough. Bitter regret stained his heart. You're right. That did happen, didn't it? Alright. I'm gonna say Mashiro high, Natsuhiko mid. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Mashiro high, Natsuhiko mid. Back then, you were the one who acted on his whims. He felt her words pierce his heart. 9 years ago, Natsuhiko took Yuri and shook off Mashiro's attempts to stop them. They ended up in an accident. Perhaps Mashiro felt responsible for that incident too, for failing to stop them. Yep, Mashiro point, good. But Natsuhiko was clearly more in the wrong. Which was why... But still, that's exactly why I don't want you to put yourself in danger. Please, Mashiro, let's just report it to the police and end it at that. That's just about all we can do in any case. I see. You really have changed then, haven't you, Natsuhiko? Mashiro smiled in resignation. But a moment later, her expression turned into anger. If you really love being safe so much, then just lock yourself up in this house forever. Huh? I can't count on you for anything anymore, Natsuhiko. Goodbye. Well, that's troublesome. Hey, wait a second, Mashiro. Mashiro flew out of the room as if to shake off Natsuhiko from stopping her. To find Salu and Yuri listening at the door. Confused, Natsuhiko tried to chase after her, but... By the time he left the house, Mashiro was already nowhere to be found. The evening rain had stopped, and the stars were somewhat visible. What's with her? Natsuhiko muttered as if to spit out his bitterness. He had no clue what made Mashiro so mad. I didn't say anything wrong, did I? Natsuhiko looked up to the sky with that shaky conviction of his. Sparkling stars dotted the whole sky. Alright, Salu High. Let's do Salu High. The stars were spread out far apart and never seemed to overlap. Much in the same way that human hearts never do. The distance between them all was hopelessly far. Well, that's cynical. Even if we've known each other for years, there are still several things we don't understand about each other, huh? With that thought in mind, Natsuhiko turned back and... Whoa! Before he had noticed her, Salu was standing right behind him. Natsuhiko recalled how this had happened before as he spoke. How long have you been there, Salu? Just got here. I heard a commotion. You heard that? No, I didn't hear the details, but... Salu paused for a moment before continuing. It was an extremely worrying situation. Huh? Alice gave me a reaction I had never heard before once she analyzed Mashiro's voice. The emotions she read from Mashiro included anger, dejection, and sadness. It can understand that much? Probably, although I personally cannot judge the accuracy of the analysis. You personally can't? If you never heard the noise before, how could you tell what it was for? Salu said something somewhat incomprehensible. But at the very least, that is what Alice's analysis stated. That was the first time Mashiro's voice contained such complex emotion. Did something happen? No. Yes, it did, Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko was at a loss for an explanation. After all, not even he quite understood what Mashiro was feeling. It's nothing. Well, we just kinda... Hey, Zap, how's it going? We kind of had a little fight. A fight? Why? Beats me. But if you could avoid it, I'd like to ask you not to pry into it too much. It's not good to poke your nose into others' fights. Is that how it works? That's how it works. I see. Alice then let out a frail voice. Salu's expression stiffened. She stared hard at Natsuhiko. What emotion did it just read? What? Well, according to Alice's analysis, you're perplexed? Huh? Well, yeah, I guess. Because of Mashiro, or because of me? Huh. Well, both of you, I guess. Salu glared at Natsuhiko discontentedly. Excuse me. But still, she didn't head back inside. An awkward silence wound between them. What? What's Salu trying to do here? He wanted her to just leave him alone, but he dared not say it. He'd feel a little awkward to rub Salu the wrong way right after having a fight with Mashiro. Is there anything we can talk about? And then he suddenly remembered a similar situation happened before. So in order to distract him from the awkward situation, Natsuhiko tried to ask about that certain topic. Salu? What? Now that I think about it, the day before yesterday, we had an odd conversation like this in front of the entrance too, didn't we? An odd conversation? You asked me things like if I liked the stars, or what the meaning behind my name was. I did indeed. What kind of questions were those? Salu answered with a look on her face that said it should have been obvious. I was trying to introduce myself. Huh? Introduce yourself? That was a self-introduction? Yes, I had just moved in, so I was trying to convey what sort of temperament I had. Was that it? But it didn't seem like a self-introduction at all to me. That's because you completely shut me down. Wait, so you mean when you asked if I like stars, you meant... Yes, I meant that I liked stars. So I was trying to start a conversation about stars, but when you said you didn't like them or hate them, I lost the motivation to talk. I'm sorry about that. Natsuhiko ended up apologizing on impulse. And then, after regathering his thoughts, he continued. Then what was that about asking the meaning behind my name? That was just because I noticed something. You noticed something? All of your names have something in common, though it just might be a forced interpretation on my part. Salu pointed at the night sky as she spoke. Japan has the legend of Tanabata, the evening of the 7th. Are you familiar with it, Natsuhiko? Yeah. It's that thing where Orihime and Hikoboshi are separated by the Heavenly River, the Milky Way, and can only meet that one night each year. Yes, first off, that Hikoboshi, or Altair. Natsuhiko Tenkawa. Tenkawa means Heaven River, like the heavenly river that Hikoboshi, a summer star, lies beside. She said all of us. Can she see Yuri? That's probably not a coincidence. Ah. Natsuhiko actually hadn't noticed that before. Wait, could that be the meaning behind my name, then? Probably. Now that he thought about it, Yuri mentioned something similar long ago in the past. Back then, Yuri had said, Hikoboshi is your star, isn't it, Natsuhiko? Your names do sound the same. I see, but how does that match everyone else? Next is Orihime. In Western astrology, Orihime is called Vega, part of the constellation Lyra. Lyra is a harp, much like a koto. Kotono. So it's Yuri's star. Okay, so she can see Yuri. Okay. Okay. She can see Yuri. Noted. Alright, so that's all three of us. Did Miyoko mention Yuri at all when she brought Salu? I don't think she did. The whole crew of adults outside their radiation suits in After Days could see Yuri. The adults in their radiation suits that we've seen interact with the kids could not. So, if the radiation suits shield against psychic powers, Miyoko should have been able to see Yuri when she brought Salu. But I can't remember if she interacted with Yuri or spoke to her or acknowledged her presence at all. I can't remember. Lyra is a harp, much like a koto. Kotono. So it's Yuri's star. I see, so that's where you're going. As Salu had admitted before, it was a little forced, but it certainly did seem to match. Then what about Mashiro? Does Mashiro fit in somewhere? On the night of Tanabata, it's said that a flock of birds form a bridge over the heavenly river with their wings. Toba means bird wing, so Mashiro Toba completes the set. So basically, all of your names relate to the legend of Tanabata. Whoa, I never even noticed. That was something that neither Natsuhiko, Yuri, nor Mashiro had ever noticed before. And it was something that Natsuhiko had never expected that Salu, having been born in France, would point out. Salu, you really know your stars, don't you? Salu ever so slightly puffed out her chest in pride and replied, I know lots of things, but I've always liked stars in particular. Oh, and what about you, Salu? I do remember you mentioning the word Sairuyu or Tear Rain before, though. That part might be the most forced, but if it rains on Tanabata, it's called Sairuyu, which is said to be the tears shed by Orihime and Hikoboshi. Then I guess all four of us have Tanabata names then, huh? Yes. Salu suddenly sank into silence. She then steeled herself and spoke up. Natsuhiko. Was what I said interesting? Yes, it was. Huh? What's this all of a sudden? I just want to make sure. Yeah, it was interesting. Informative, too. I see. Good. Then finally, Salu smiled ever so slightly. In that case, I have to do my daily routine, so I'll be heading back to my room. Abrupt as ever, huh? You told me I shouldn't pry into other people's fights, so I won't say anything more than this. But you guys are friends who have matching names. I think it's best you get along. Huh? As for me, I'd be happier if you and Mashiro did get along. And with that, Salu quickly went back inside. Natsuhiko just stood by himself outside, staring at the door in astonishment. What just happened? No way. No way! Did Salu just console me? It was hard to believe, since it happened out of nowhere, but he couldn't think of any other possibility. Is Salu actually a good kid after all? You didn't think she was good, Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko whispered with a wry smile. But although Salu may have said all that, Natsuhiko still didn't quite understand the reason Mashiro was so mad. I know you told me to get along with her, but how? Natsuhiko mulled over that thought as he went back inside. He headed toward his room without stopping by the living room. He sat on his bed and began to think about what happened with Mashiro, when suddenly he heard a knock on the door. "Hi, Yuri." Hikarin." "Oh, Yuri? It's open. Feel free." "Pardon the intrusion." Yuri timidly walked into Natsuhiko's room. "What's wrong, Yuri? You don't usually visit my room." Well, it's because I heard Mashiro yell in a really loud voice." Did you hear that conversation we just had?" "Just a little." "More than a little. She heard everything, because she's a figment of Natsuhiko's imagination." Apparently, since they talked so loud, Yuri even heard it in the living room. Natsuhiko looked around awkwardly as Yuri questioned him. "Mashiro seemed mad. What happened?" "Well, I'm not really sure what happened here either." Natsuhiko summarized the conversation he and Mashiro had, going against her wishes to not upset Yuri and Salu. "I wonder what made Mashiro so mad." Yuri frowned at Natsuhiko as she responded. I think I might have an idea, but..." "What is it?" "Maybe Mashiro wants you to return to being the Hikarin you were in the past? I think she's sad because she's realized just how much you've changed from the righteous Hikarin who stood up for justice in the past." "Huh? The past?" Yuri smiled slightly as she nodded. Smiled slighty as she nodded. "Back when we were kids running around town, she just wants you to go back to being the Hikarin from back then." Alright, Yuri High. The Hikarin that would help anyone who was... help anybody out who was crying or in trouble without a second thought. The Hikarin that helped both me and Mashiro out. I see. Certainly enough, Natsuhiko did have a stronger sense of justice and initiative back then. So you have changed, Natsuhiko, admitted. Excuse me. I was like that back time too. Proofreaders, come on! Whoops. Natsuhiko remembered the past once more. He remembered when his sense of justice compelled him to save Yuri. 10 years ago, in a corner of a twilit city. After the day they read the book together, Natsuhiko and Yuri quickly became friends. They wouldn't just play together when they met at the park. Yuri would also come visit Natsuhiko's house to play. Pardon the intrusion. Sure, come on in. It was his first time having a girl come to his house to play, so Natsuhiko was a little nervous. Natsuhiko, your house is so big. Really? I guess. It certainly was a big house, but that didn't stop it from feeling lonely from time to time. His father had already passed away, and his mother came home late, so Natsuhiko was happy to have a visitor. Yuri took notice of the digital photo frame decorating a corner of the living room. Is this a picture of your mom, Natsuhiko? Huh? Oh, yeah. The digital photo frame had a picture of Natsuhiko with his mom. It was a picture taken just the other day. His mother was smiling faintly with her hand on Natsuhiko's shoulder. She seems like a nice mom. Huh? Nice? She sure ain't. Sorry to break it to you, but Mom's not that nice. She is smart and cool, though. No, I'm sure she's nice. I can tell by her smile. I guarantee it. I think you're incorrect, Yuri. Your guarantee doesn't really... Natsuhiko loved his mom, but it was a little awkward hearing someone praise her. More importantly, let's go play something, like spinning tops. Well, I brought a book. How about we read together? Huh, again? You don't want to? it was so fun the other time, so I... it's not like that at all. Okay, let's read together then. One sec, guys. Taking a little medicine. Hang on, sorry. Some Tums. Okay. It's not like that at all. Okay, let's read together then. Yuri smiled in relief at Natsuhiko's frantic attempt to smooth things over. As they read the book together, it eventually started to get dark outside the window. Huh. Is it already that late? Don't you have to go home? Huh. Let's play just a little longer. She wasn't a mind goblin from the beginning, was she? But it's already 5, isn't it? Yeah, but, or she just doesn't have a good home life. Right, that's why she lives with Natsuhiko, is because, her family's either sucky or dead. It's almost dinner time. See? Come on. Natsuhiko pressed her as he showed her his watch. Yuri turned her face away as if to run away from the time, but... Okay, I'll go home. She eventually gave up. See you later, Natsuhiko. Okay, bye, Yuri. Yuri nodded and left the house. She looked so sad to Natsuhiko as she left. But a little while after he returned to his room... Huh? He noticed Yuri's book had been left on the desk. Did she forget it here? Oh well, I'll go bring it back to her. Natsuhiko left the house, book in hand. He knew where Yuri lived. He had walked with her to the front of her house once after they had played in the park. I've never been inside Yuri's house before, huh? Oh, he's going to save her from abusive parents, isn't he? I wonder if I'll be allowed inside. I wonder what Yuri's room looks like. Natsuhiko walked on, a little nervous for some reason. Eventually, he reached familiar municipal housing. This must be the place. Natsuhiko cleared his throat and pressed the doorbell. And after a while, Yuri came out with a dark look on her face. Natsuhiko, what's wrong? Well, you forgot your book at my place, so I came to... As Natsuhiko started talking, an angry voice suddenly erupted from the house. Why did we have to move to a creepy town like this, all for that brat? Oh, boy. Shitty parents. You expect me to turn down that pile of money? Natsuhiko's body shook at the sound of those violent voices. But they didn't stop there. Look at you. You were so damn happy when they recommended we move, weren't you? I didn't know the town was this creepy. All those damn cameras everywhere you go. What the hell? A man and a woman appeared to be fighting. Huh? What? Don't tell me those two are Yuri's mom and dad. When Natsuhiko's father was still alive, he never saw his parents fighting. When he looked to Yuri in bewilderment, she just smiled at him. Thank you. Huh? Thank you for bringing the book back. No problem. As he handed the book back, Natsuhiko noticed something. Is she bruised? Yuri's smile seemed horribly sad compared to her usual smile. What the hell's with this town anyway? Damn espers everywhere. The hell's a communicator? Disgusting. You damn gave birth to one, woman. I told you to abort it too. A little late to complain about him now, eh? What the fuck? What? Don't act like this is all my fault. You're the one who was obsessed with moving here so you wouldn't have to get off your lazy ass to work. Man up for once. Shut it, woman. It's not my fault there's no work for me. Their abusive words rang out endlessly. Yuri shrank in fear. Yuri, are your mom and dad fighting? No. Of course they are, and it sounds like they're saying bad things about you too. Do you want me to go stop them? Don't! Natsuhiko couldn't help but fall silent at her sharp voice. Natsuhiko, I'll be fine. Will you? But... I'm sorry. I'll see you later. The door closed in front of Natsuhiko's face. Starting to make a bit more sense how some anti-communicator people could end up moving here. Yeah. Natsuhiko left, unable to do anything else. Did he tell his mom? He thought to himself as he walked in the darkness. This is unacceptable. Why must Yuri be forced to make such a sad face? And after thinking his hardest, even as a young boy, Natsuhiko connected the dots. The reason Yuri was always so reluctant to go home was because of those parents. In that case, eventually he began to think, was there a way he could change Yuri's sadness into a smile? Was there a way he could save her? I'll save her. As he traversed the dusk-bathed streets, the young boy made a resolute decision. Back then, Natsuhiko certainly did want to save Yuri. He would act according to his sense of justice, without considering any complicated things like other people's familial circumstances. Rescuing Yuri from her parents was a good thing, Natsuhiko. Though I don't know... Hang on. Did she come to live with Natsuhiko when she... Well, quote-unquote come to live with Natsuhiko when she died or before then? When did that happen? Just as Yuri had said, he once did have that sort of quality to him. But he still did not want to believe that the past him was the better him. Yuri hi, Natsuhiko min. But say, Yuri, is my current way of thinking really all that bad? Huh? Back in those days, I did indeed act based on my own righteousness and on my own initiative. But that was only because I was a kid with childish thoughts. Are you saying that rescuing Yuri from her abusive parents was a childish thought, Natsuhiko? And look what that got me. In the end, I only ended up endangering someone dear to me, didn't I? So, Hikari, are you saying that you were wrong back then? Yeah, that's why I wanted to change. To be calm, composed, and careful not to drag those around me into danger. I wanted to grow, even gradually if need be. Natsuhiko, you just told her you regretted saving her. That was the least he could do to atone for what happened to Yuri. Oh! And yet Yuri herself looked Natsuhiko in the eye and responded. That's wrong, Hikari. That's not growth. that stagnation. Yuri's tone of voice changed abruptly, startling Natsuhiko. It couldn't be, he thought as he looked at Yuri. And as he looked at her, there was a look in her eyes that was different from normal. Ever since that day 9 years ago, time has stopped for you, Hikarin. And the one who stopped it was me. Huh. Huh. Maybe she was in the fire because she ran away from home. Yeah, I'm thinking that Natsuhiko took her to Labo. Probably to try to talk to his mom about taking her in. And the fire happened there and she died. Excuse me. I'm going to put Mashiro high. This is a red choice. So this might get me a game over. Mashiro high. And the one who stopped it was me. Yuri stopped my time? I'm sure Mashiro still blames herself too harshly for it. And that very same Mashiro is putting herself in great danger, yet you're still going to disregard her, Hikarin? You need to worry about Mashiro in the same way you worry about me. If you don't, then time will stay stopped for you forever, you know? Yuri, what are you saying? You've been kind of strange lately. You're right. It is kind of odd to say something like that all of a sudden, huh? But I'm not the only thing strange lately. Most likely, everything is strange. Everything you've seen and heard. Once Yuri said that, Natsuhiko fearfully looked at his watch. And, of course, it had broken before he had noticed it. Again? Upon seeing his broken watch, Natsuhiko had realized something. September 13th had long come and passed. The sliver of peace he had obtained had long since been lost. Okay, so it did happen on Monday, so they do have the Sunday shopping trip, possibly. And thus, Natsuhiko was torn away from his peaceful recollection and returned to reality. In reality, Natsuhiko was standing in front of a collapsed emergency staircase. Beside him were an anxious Mashiro and a frightened Yuri. They had gotten separated from Salu and were searching for an escape route. As he remembered what happened that fateful night, Natsuhiko ground his teeth. I didn't believe Mashiro at first when she told me about the terrorist plot. And this is the result of my disbelief. Natsuhiko was filled once again with regret. What I need to do first is to get Mashiro and the others out of here. Natsuhiko rushed to the stairwell and looked up. Is there any way at all to climb this thing? If I can at least get Mashiro and the others out, then... As that thought crossed his mind, a small figure appeared at the top of the stairs. Salu! Bloodied and beaten. Actually, is that her own blood, I wonder? Maybe that's the other guy's blood. Salu! Once Natsuhiko yelled, she looked down at them. How'd it go? Were you able to beat those guys? I'm sorry. It was an embarrassing defeat. For them! As soon as she said that, Natsuhiko heard the sound of a drop of water dripping down. A red stain formed on the floor, a stain of Salu's blood. Salu, you're hurt? You suffered defeat. Don't tell me those guys... Right when I knocked those two out, another one appeared, and then I got shot! She went through the whole 6 hours of after days with a bullet wound in her? Now that he thought about it, the enemy did show up with guns last night. Crap, it was so obvious. Why didn't I even consider that possibility? Salu glanced at the painful-looking wound on her arm. The enemy has exceptional physical strength and unknown numbers. Our odds don't look good. Then what do we do? All we can do is run, as quickly and as far away as possible. Right as Natsuhiko found himself at a loss for words, a voice rang out on the intercom. According to the roll call on the ground floor, evacuation of all staff members has been confirmed. In the unlikely event that anyone besides staff members has been left behind, please escape through areas 5 and 6 immediately, which means that the bad guys know where we're going. As she heard the announcement, Salu sighed in relief. That means Dr. Tenkawa managed to escape, so all that's left is for us to evacuate too. Okay, Salu, then come down here. Let's escape together. No, I can't climb down with this arm. I think it'd be difficult for you guys to climb up too. But if we hesitate, the enemy is likely to catch up to us. So let's split up and escape separately. No, will you be okay by yourself, Salu? I will, but there's no time to speak my reasoning. So let's use BC. Right after Salu said that, her mental voice rang out in Natsuhiko's head. Her clear, high-speed thought process. As though she was lying when she said she couldn't do it properly. Natsuhiko gasped as it all came rushing into his head in a single instant. Salu! Yuri and Mashiro looked up at Salu in the same way. Salu? Me too, Salu. Natsuhiko forced a smile and spoke up. Okay, leave these two to me. Promise me one more thing, that we'll all live long enough to meet again on the outside. Promise. And with that, Salu disappeared. Let's go, you two. We need to keep our promise to Salu. It bothers me so much that they're using the background for the top of the stairwell for this scene at the bottom of the stairwell. Mashiro and Yuri nodded meekly. And then the three of them ran off once more. The broadcast had said that the staircases in areas 5 and 6 were safe. The three of them walked through the connecting passageways towards that goal. But once they left Area 3 and approached Area 4's outer ring, they found it wreathed in flames. Oh no! Hikarin, what do we do? Yuri and Mashiro looked at Natsuhiko with concern. Decisively, Natsuhiko answered. Let's cut across. Really? Through the fire? And the flames we carry on. Huh? There's no guarantee that the staircases in areas 5 and 6 will stay safe forever. So we need to get through Area 4 as quickly as possible. True, and luckily enough, it doesn't look that impassable. Yuri, what about you? Think you can make it? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay then, let's go. And with that, the three of them walked into the fiery area. Get down low so you don't breathe in the smoke. Cover your mouth with a sleeve. Yuri strides directly through the fire, intangible. Yeah. The three of them crouched down and walked on the floor. The flames flickered against the walls as the heat waves closed in on them. Ugh. Eventually, Mashiro rose her voice from behind. Natsuhiko turned around in shock to see her rubbing her eyes painfully. What happened? He poses and walks through the flames to assert dominance, yeah. Smoke got into my eyes. It's okay, I'll guide you by the hand. You can close your eyes, so just run. Okay. Natsuhiko took her by the hand with his right, and Mashiro gripped back firmly. You too, Yuri. Right. Natsuhiko grabbed Yuri by the hand with his left, and he ran ahead, guiding the other two. and they somehow managed to slip out of Area 4. So have they already got an Area 6 keycard that'll let them traverse Area 6 once the bulkheads come down? Or are they going to find that in Before Crime? Excuse me. The three of them rushed into the connecting passageway to Area 5. The security gate closed behind them automatically, making sure that the flames couldn't follow. Are you two okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Relieved, Natsuhiko led the two girls as they walked through the passageway. But as they turned the corner... Uh-oh. They found another fire in wait. No way. We can't get through. The flames in the passageway were intense. Anyone who would attempt crossing through would surely catch on fire. Crap, we're caught between the fires. Well, there's those emergency fire hoses, if you know how to use them. Excuse me. When that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Mashiro groaned. Mashiro, are you crying? What's wrong? Did you get burned somewhere? No, I just suddenly felt like I've wronged everyone. Mashiro muttered through her sobs. When I heard about the terrorist plot, I never thought it'd turn out like this. I got Salu hurt too, and I got us all caught between the fires. I should have listened to you, Natsuhiko. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged everyone into this. Dragged? That word shook Natsuhiko's heart. No, I'm the one who dragged everyone into this. Huh? If I hadn't gone down when the alarm went off, I wouldn't have dragged us all into this. Regret suddenly filled Natsuhiko's heart. He dragged those precious to him into danger once again, just like he did 9 years ago. This time, not just Yuri, but Mashiro and Salu too. The headache he had forgotten came back stronger, except now it was accompanied by the pangs of guilt. I'm the one at fault, Mashiro. You did nothing wrong. So please, don't cry. Mashiro wiped her tears and looked at Natsuhiko. No, Natsuhiko, don't say that. You're back to your old self now, aren't you? At the very least, I'm happy for that. Happy you could die a hero. Her words were tinged with both gentleness and slight resignation. An intense pain ran through Natsuhiko's chest. Damn it, what do we do? Smoke was drawing near from around the corner, but he couldn't come up with their next move. Well, apparently you could get through the previous fire hallway, so why not go back and go around? But that very moment, Yuri spoke up. Mashiro is wrong. Huh? Yuri? Hikarin, you haven't come back yet. Time has still stopped for you, just like it has been ever since that fateful day 9 years ago. Natsuhiko couldn't believe what he saw. That was the same warning Yuri gave him on September 13th. I don't think it was. I think Yuri gave you that warning by jumping into your memories and overriding for a minute. It's still stopped? Yes. That's why I have been rewinding your memory over and over to get your time to move once more. Alright, just going to be blatant about her being a mind goblin. Even if those memories lead to today, even if those memories hide a bitter truth. Natsuhiko still couldn't quite understand what Yuri was saying. But I do understand what's going to happen now. That was something that Natsuhiko had already come to digest. Whenever Yuri says these things, that bizarre phenomenon always occurs, doesn't it? Natsuhiko looked at his watch. It had already begun to tick away the time. The date was 9/14. The time, 6:59. 2 days before this incident. Ah, I see. That was the day our daily lives came crashing down. His vision went dark, and in the darkness he heard her voice. The true beginning has only just begun. It's time to face the truth. So please, Hikarin, try not to avert your eyes. And as Yuri appealed to him thusly, Natsuhiko's consciousness returned to September 14th. Natsuhiko peacefully awoke from his sleep that day. Changing mornings, huh? Although this morning wasn't particularly unpleasant, he still felt somehow depressed. The sound of rain could be heard from outside the window. I love listening to rain. It's so soothing. Give me some torrential downpours. I love them. It had temporarily let up last night, but appeared to have started pouring down once more. Chapter 5, September 14th chapter. 2 days until the incident. Tips to read from Chapter 4, Theory of Relativity, BC Receptor, Telepathy, Empathy, and Bayo Bayo, Episode 3. Alright, well, we're going to save. I'm going to read those, and then I'm going to take a break and feed the cat. So, G. Okay, classification. Theory of Relativity is nonfiction. Okay, where's the Theory of Relativity? Theory of Relativity includes fiction, I see. Perhaps you've had the experience where you thought the car you were in was moving, when in actuality it was the car you were looking at outside that moved. Speed is often known in relative terms, and it is hard to tell for sure exactly how fast you are moving. Even when you measure an object's speed, you merely measure its speed in relation to the ground. This is an example of Galileo Galilei's principle of relativity. Does the Earth move, or does the Sun move? It is difficult to know for sure, which is why the geocentric model pervaded for so long before Copernicus proposed the heliocentric model. But in 1905, a certain Albert Einstein discovered that the speed of light remained constant regardless of the frame of reference, principle of invariant light speed. And based on the aforementioned principle of relativity, he announced the special principle of relativity and its matching special theory of relativity. The special refers to how it only applies to a special coordinate system, called an inertial coordinate system, that accounts only for the inertia working on an object and not the gravity working on it. The addition of accounting for gravity is called the general theory of relativity. The theory of relativity refers to both special and general forms. E equals mc squared, the mass-energy equivalence formula used in the special theory of relativity, is said to be one of the most beautiful formulas on Earth and is known by many. E is energy, m is mass, and c is the speed of light in a vacuum. Miyoko Tenkawa has her own unique ideas about this formula. An enormous release of energy requires an equivalently large loss of mass. Adapting this idea to her own circumstances, she thinks that a large success requires an equivalently large sacrifice. To clear a path for her beloved son's future, she had to abandon even their mutual trust and familial bond in order to devote herself to research, like a shitty mom. Or at least that was the weak excuse she made to push herself to be a strong mother after her husband's death. BC Receptor, Telepathy, Empathy, and Bayo Bayo. Empathy. M particles are unstable in the atmosphere, but even those without BC abilities have considerable amounts of M particles in their mind containing information pertinent to themselves. Empathy is a technique to convert the atmospheric W particles into M particles, duplicating the M particles in the target's mind and allowing the communicator to take the duplicated particles into their own mind, allowing them to read the target's thoughts. As it is a high-level technique, there are considerably fewer espers who can use empathy compared to those who can use telepathy. Furthermore, it has been established that M particles demonstrate a sort of immunity, sending noise to cover up any unwanted duplication of information. Simply put, empathy cannot be used to read the minds of those who close their hearts to the Esper. It may sound like pseudoscience, but the more important requirement for empathy is a relationship of mutual trust between the Esper and the target. Okay. Telepathy. The basic BC ability of conveying one's thoughts to others. Telepathy works by intaking atmospheric W particles, combining them with BC energy loaded with any arbitrary information expressed in your voice to convert them into M particles, and sending those M particles into other people's brains. So the WX particles, okay. So Miyoko Tenkala is experimenting with information as mass and energy. So the W particles are neutral W particles that don't have information in them. They can be converted into M particles that have information in them. So the WX particles that are irradiating the facility, my guess is that the WX particles are ambient information that is infusing regular W particles as opposed to the M particles that are coming from a specific person. Well, maybe that doesn't make sense. Never mind. Hang on. What's the difference between that and M particles then? Maybe. With practice, M particles can be made to retain stability for longer, thus increasing the effective range of telepathy. Furthermore, by knowing that BC energy frequency varies from person to person, directionality can be given to one's messages, allowing control over who is able to pick up the information. Alright, BC receptor and Bayo Bayo. BC receptor. An organ recently confirmed to exist in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the organ in charge of thought, decision-making, and the control of emotions and memories. A receptor is a general term for something that receives stimuli from hormones and other chemical substances. An individual's BC aptitude is calculated from the BC receptor's state of development, which, in turn, determines the extent to which an individual can potentially use BC abilities to send and receive information. Though improved BC ability can be acquired through training to some extent, the BC receptor's final state of development is mostly congenital. Thus, the acquired increase of potential is considered to be impossible by principle. Hang on! Hold on! I just had a brain blast. My idle theory that Natsuhiko and Watase swapped brains and memories and whatever, and that we had been playing as an amnesiac Natsuhiko in Watase's body, means that the reason Yuri appears to the adult crew is that Natsuhiko in Watase's body is generating her. No, that wouldn't work, because Watase's brain would have to be a communicator as well. And the sheer power of communication comes from Natsuhiko's brain. Never mind. I'm having all sorts of dumb theories today. Though improved BC ability can be acquired through training to some extent, the BC receptor's final state of development is mostly congenital. Thus, the acquired increase of potential is considered to be impossible by principle. Okay, and Bayo Bayo Episode 3. I swore upon my heart to protect this town I love, and the gentle hearts of all the people I love, and I swear I'll defeat nobody. The secret society Nobody plots for world domination, using the dark psychic power, Dark Lloyd telepathy, to manipulate people's minds. Kirara uses telepathy in sincere entreaty to those who have lost themselves to the amplified malice. What ultimately allows the people to regain their calm minds is the knowledge that their thankless good deeds had not gone unnoticed by the gentle girl. There are things that cannot be done with psychic powers alone, and, at the same time, there are things that can be done because of psychic powers. A famous scene detailing both hope and the limits of psychic powers. Psychic Girl Beyond Beyond, official guidebook. When she heard of June's desire to become a rescue worker out of admiration for the heroes that save people rather than the heroines who need to be saved, Mashiro approved, saying, "When I was a kid, I too swore to myself that I would protect this town I so dearly love." Though she spoke of it as if it were in the past, the passion to be a hero that saves people was still burning within her heart. That passion should be apparent, judging by what she did later. Cool, okay. Well, we're going to save. I believe I've already saved, and we're going to save again. I'm going to go feed the cat. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm also going to take a break. I need to check something real quick first, though. Hang on. All right, be right back. Come on, Cutlet. It is time for Feed the Cat. Say hi to chat. Alright, back. Natsuhiko headed to the living room to see only Yuri and nobody else. Salu was probably still sleeping. Where's Mashiro? She probably isn't coming over to feed you today, Natsuhiko. She hasn't come. Thought so. Mashiro would often not come to the house the day after a fight. Oh, okay, so this isn't a unique situation. They have had fights before and then they've made up after them. Okay. Yuri glared at Natsuhiko judgmentally. Don't glare at me like that. If anything, last night was Mashiro's fault. She suddenly said something absurd, and then got mad because I wouldn't believe her. You still should have believed in her then. No way. That's crazy talk. Oh, excuse me. Natsuhiko was a little dejected that even Yuri was criticizing him. Say, Yuri, I'm sure even you understand how seriously this city takes its public order, right? There's no way a terrorist plot could unravel here, could it? Even if it did, what could we do? Fight the terrorists empty-handed? This isn't some Hollywood blockbuster, you know. True, but Hikarin, you might regret not doing anything. Uh-huh. Alright, Mashiro and Yuri high, Natsuhiko mid. Regret not doing anything? Why? I just get that sort of feeling. Yuri said no more. The rain outside sounded somehow softer than silence. I got a Mashiro point. Cool. Well, anyway, don't worry about Mashiro. I'll make sure to follow up on her. Yeah, that would be best. Once Natsuhiko gave in to the pressure and said that, Yuri smiled with her whole face. But still, what should I actually do? Is there something I can do that both Mashiro and Yuri would agree with? The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Salu showed up in the living room. You awake, Natsuhiko? I mean, he's standing right in front of you. Just got up. You, Salu? Me too. I overslept a little. Salu looked around the room and continued. Where's Mashiro? She's not here today. Why not? Try and take a guess. Salu tilted her head in confusion. Well, I think she'll come tomorrow. She'll be all like, see how much you need little old me now, and stuff. I already do. No Mashiro means no food. Yeah, sorry, but we'll have to settle for a meager breakfast today. And with that, Natsuhiko tossed some bread into the toaster. But still, it's been one thing or another every morning lately, huh? It wasn't like this at all just a few days ago. But today's event, Mashiro's absence, was particularly rough on Natsuhiko's heart. He honestly believed that his daily routine would continue forever, and yet... would it really? And yet, now that question rose up inside his heart. One day, my peace could end. One day I could lose those close to me. One day, my precious memories could crumble. Each of those things is clearly possible. So have I just been averting my eyes from the inevitable? It was a question he had put little thought to, but it nonetheless tore at his heart. Wait, why am I even worrying about this? Natsuhiko shook his head as if to clear it of unnecessary thoughts. Yuri just watched him silently, privy to every word that appeared in his brain. The morning bell rang as Natsuhiko and Salu entered the classroom. Whew, looks like we made it. Mashiro's not here. You're right. Now that he got a good look, Mashiro's seat was empty. He couldn't even see her bag nearby. Guess she's taking the day off. Maybe she caught a cold, or maybe she's just that pissed off and trying to brainstorm ways to save the city. Natsuhiko said as he sat in his seat. Eventually, Enna entered the classroom. Okay, good morning, class. Let me take roll. Akagawa. Here. Ino. Here. Oda. And thus, roll call commenced. But as she eventually got to Natsuhiko's name, Tenkawa. Here. Toba. Miss Toba? Huh? Is Miss Toba taking today off? That's odd. She didn't contact us beforehand. Huh? That could only mean that Mashiro was in a rush and skipped school without permission. Even though she was not usually the type to be truant. Don't tell me. So, we're the only ones who've noticed this, aren't we? So in that case, we gotta thwart the terrorism ourselves. That idiot! Don't tell me she actually plans to try and stop a terrorist plot. But judging by how Mashiro was yesterday, that did indeed seem plausible. I don't know on what basis she believes there's an actual terrorist plot, but whatever it is, it's definitely not a problem that a mere high schooler can solve. In fact, Mashiro's actions could cause some sort of danger. That was the vague premonition he was getting. I guess I'll go look for her after school. Afterwards, Natsuhiko continued his classes somewhat absent-mindedly. And as lunch break began, there was still no sign of Mashiro. Incident. Specialty schools like Rokume Academy ran full-time classes every second and fourth Saturday. So to prepare for afternoon classes, Natsuhiko bought some bread and ate it in the classroom. He and Salu spoke sparingly. That sandwich good? It's okay. I see. Without Mashiro as their mood maker, conversation just wasn't happening between them. I never thought this would be how I'd learn how much of a blessing it was to have Mashiro around. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, an announcement came streaming out of a speaker affixed to the classroom wall. This is an emergency broadcast. We've just received a report that a dangerous object was set inside school grounds. Students, please remain calm and follow faculty instructions. Please evacuate to the schoolyard for now. Natsuhiko gasped, and the whole class stirred in unrest. A dangerous object? For real? No way. Could this possibly have something to do with the commotion they've been talking about on the news? No. What the heck? Why are they targeting our school? The students' agitation created a positive feedback loop, quickly turning the classroom into a turbulent echo chamber. A dangerous object? Like what? If they need to evacuate the students, then I assume it's either an explosive or a gas bomb. A bomb? Natsuhiko choked on his words. No way. You mean Mashiro was right? The moment Natsuhiko considered that possibility, Enna came rushing into the classroom. Class, you heard that announcement, right? Her voice was more forceful, her expression colder than usual. Life is long, so pipe down and listen up for now. First, everyone take your seats. I thought we were evacuating to the schoolyard. The students sat in their seats as instructed. Enna quickly scanned the classroom for empty seats. Okay, so that's everyone with the exception of Miss Toba. So now we begin evacuation. Line up in seat order and follow me. The students muttered amongst themselves as they nervously stood up. At the very least, it looks like they're serious about the dangerous object. Then, assuming there really is a terrorist or whatever, what if Mashiro went to search for them and actually ran into them? Impossible. Such a stupid coincidence could never happen. But despite his rejection of the idea, he couldn't shake off the anxiety he felt. Without thinking, Natsuhiko suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong, Mr. Tenkawa? Get in the evacuation line. Okay. As he answered, Natsuhiko heard a voice in his ear. But Hikarin, you might regret not doing anything. Oh-ho! Yuri speaks! From across town, supposedly. And by across town, I mean from within his brain. Natsuhiko gasped at those words. They were the words Yuri had said this morning. And 1 second later, Natsuhiko opened his mouth. No, Professor. And out came words he had never expected to say. I'm sorry, but may I leave early? And she looks at Natsuhiko and goes, No. Huh? Enna and even Salu opened their eyes in surprise. Natsuhiko? What are you talking about? Let's just evacuate first. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. But I'm worried about Mashiro's safety. It was something that the usual Natsuhiko would never say. I'm really sorry, but I'm leaving. Huh? Hey, wait! He heard Enna, but chose to ignore her. He flew out of the classroom to find Mashiro. When he got outside, the streaks of rain had more or less abated. Thanks to that, he could search outside without needing an umbrella. The only problem was that he had no honest idea where Mashiro could be. So for now, he just took out his PDA and tried to call her. But, damn it won't connect! It was ringing, but Mashiro wouldn't pick up. Is she still mad about yesterday? He was fine with it if she wouldn't pick up. If she couldn't pick up due to injury or other danger, that would be a different story, though. Oh well, I guess I'll go look on foot. The moment he made that decision, he heard Salu's voice from behind. Natsuhiko, what are you trying to do? Huh? Oh, you followed me? Because you suddenly ran off. More importantly, why didn't you evacuate as you were told? It should be obvious. I'm looking for Mashiro. For Mashiro? Why? Actually, last night she... Natsuhiko gave a simple explanation for what happened last night. Terrorists. That's... Well, I think she's somehow mistaken. But for now, yeah, that's what we're going with. But if that's true, then there could be a danger involved. In which case, I need to protect you. I see. Actually, he didn't see. As always, he didn't quite understand her, but there was no time for discussion. Okay, then let's search together. Roger. Any guesses where Mashiro went? None, but we need to start searching regardless. And with that, the two of them ran into the rain. I wonder if Sirius gets called in for, the bomb threat. Natsuhiko and Salu checked the whole town. They combed through every place Mashiro was likely to go, but there was no sign that they would find her. Damn it, where the hell is Mashiro? We should rest a bit. We've already been running around for 20 minutes. Guess you're right. Natsuhiko combed through his disheveled hair and took a few deep breaths. Wait, it took you 20 minutes to search the city? Damn it, Mashiro, you're not making it any easier for us. As he muttered that, Salu responded in a cold voice. You've been cursing this whole time, Natsuhiko. If it's that frustrating, then you don't have to look for her. Besides, you think Mashiro's mistaken about there being terrorists, don't you? I may not believe her about the terrorists, but regardless, I'm still worried about her. Our friend is suddenly gone. You can understand that I'd be worried, right? No, I don't understand. Your words and your actions contradict. If you don't believe Mashiro, then why don't you just leave her alone? What? According to you, there are no terrorists. In that case, leaving Mashiro alone would be the obvious thing to do. That's kind of dry. Also, our friend deserves to know we care about her. Natsuhiko is a little perturbed. You've received quite a bit of Mashiro's favor too, haven't you, Salu? That's a completely different story. I'm just giving a logical conclusion. Hey, don't you think you're being a little too cold? You're not going to make any friends like that. Natsuhiko regretted those words as soon as they left his lips. That was essentially an outburst of anger. But Salu calmly replied. That's fine. It's impossible for me to have friends anyway. Too late! You've already got 2 and a brain ghost. Does the brain ghost count as a friend or as part of Natsuhiko? I'm going to say that Salu has 2 friends. Hey, that's not fine at all. They say humans need others in order to live. Then let me turn the question around. What exactly is a friend? Huh? A friend is someone you frequently do stuff with. And, well, you share in each other's fun times and sad times, I guess? Natsuhiko gave a general answer to Salu's blunt question. Yes, that's what I've heard friends were like. And that's why it's impossible for me to make friends. Are you saying you refuse to share? It's not impossible, is it? If you think normally. It really is impossible. Salu interrupted Natsuhiko and informed him of a truth he had never heard before. I cannot understand other people's feelings at all, because my brain lacks that function. What? Natsuhiko unintentionally gasped. But Salu, you still have emotions, don't you? Of course, even I can have emotions. Then can't you just apply that to other people? No, I cannot. Okay, so which mental disorder are they going with? General hand-wavy? Or is she autistic? She might be autistic. I don't have a lot of faith in writers to portray autism properly. So I'm a little apprehensive about this. Like, it's good in To the Moon, it's good in Persona 5. What other games can I think of that have done it properly? Well, we'll see how this plays out. No, I cannot. Even though I understand that other people have emotions, I cannot comprehend how those emotions change. That is my defect, but I lost in exchange for high functionality elsewhere. Oh! Okay, well, let's hope she isn't supposed to have autism explicitly, because that is an unfortunate way to describe it. Well, I guess in character she might view it as a defect. So, did the experiments on her turn her autistic, or is she just speaking metaphorically? All I can do is judge whether to believe or to reject the words of others. Nonverbal and finely nuanced expressions of emotion are beyond my comprehension. And now you say you don't believe there are terrorists, and yet you're looking for Mashiro. That's a contradiction. I'm just confused about that. Salu hung her head as she finished. Is that even possible? But despite his doubts, he felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. Excuse me. I see now, so that's why she treasures Alice so much. Salu said that ARMS was a device meant to read the moods of others. So that was why she couldn't ever be without it. If she couldn't understand other people's feelings, then she had no choice but to trust in Alice's judgment. Is it genetic? Yes, I believe so. The brain is just another part of the body, after all. Just as the body has its own physical dispositions, it's only natural for the brain to have its own as well. Natsuhiko, you don't understand the feelings of trees or flowers or insects, do you? No, I really can't say that I do. It's probably the same concept. I cannot tell the difference between a human mind and an insect mind. My brain does not even attempt to process the feelings of others. That's just so sad. Natsuhiko forcibly swallowed that word down, because Salu most likely was not seeking pity when she told him this truth. But still, Natsuhiko wanted to at least say something, so he tried his best to wring some words out. BC. That's it. BC can help you understand other people's minds, can't it? Sure enough, Salu supposedly had rank D aptitude. She could learn how to use empathy. It would take a considerable amount of effort, but it wouldn't be impossible. And if she did, it would make living easier for her, or so Natsuhiko thought. There's no hope for that. My actual aptitude is rank F. Abilities non-existent as well. Yeah, about that. That's a lie. Salu High. Rank F aptitude specified that one was unable to use BC at all. So how'd she get into the BC school? If that's the case. It's not the case. We saw in the flash forward that she can use BC pretty thoroughly, but okay, so I'm pretty sure she's got layers of lies here. Lying to the school that she's only got rank D aptitude, now lying to Natsuhiko that she has rank F. And the truth is that she's actually pretty powerful. In other words, no amount of effort would ever allow one to use BC. Wait, then why did Professor Tsubakiyama say you were rank D? Because Rokume Academy does not accept applicants with rank F aptitude. Dr. Tenkawa forged my medical certificate. Salu point. She went so far as to do that? Salu nodded plainly. It was hard to believe, but judging by her expression, it didn't seem dubious at all. So you really can't use it? I have tried practicing in the past, though. I thought that if I could use BC, I could understand people's feelings. But it was impossible for me. Huh. Is she lying here? Maybe she doesn't know? Maybe being in... maybe being in Labo with the leaking WX particles. Is the WX particle experiment meant to make non-telepathic people telepathic? Producing powerful enough W particles that people with rank F aptitude can manipulate them? Interesting. When Mashiro was teaching us yesterday, I finally got motivated again. And it's not a problem of motivation. I've long since given up. There's no way I can understand other people's minds. I came to Japan, met all of you, and had fun. But at times, I've also been confused and also scared. Perhaps I really wasn't meant to interact with other people. Huh. Maybe she hasn't grown up in Labo. How exactly must that feel? To be unable to understand others, no matter how much you try. To be the only one left out when everyone else around you reaches understanding of what's on each other's minds. It does suck. Natsuhiko was at a loss just trying to imagine it. I see. Salu's relationship to others is like the relationship between communicators and ordinary people. Once he thought about it that way, a memory of the past arose from the back of his mind. Flashbacks in the flashbacks! When he was young, Natsuhiko was the center of attention for the neighborhood kids. Back then, Natsuhiko loved BC. Without thinking too deeply about it, he yearned to be someone special, which was why he dreamed of becoming a communicator. But right before he got into elementary school, he learned that he really did have the aptitude to become one for real. And thus it was decided that he and Mashiro would enroll in Rokume Academy. Which meant that eventually they had to leave all their previous friends behind. People stopped gathering in the park they always played in. The only ones to stay with Natsuhiko were Yuri and Mashiro. Huh, nobody's here today either. Why'd everyone leave? They said we'd always be friends even once we started elementary school. Yuri spoke up after Natsuhiko and Mashiro muttered those words. It's because we're communicators and the others are ordinary people. Huh? They might be scared of us reading their minds. Since Yuri was 2 years their senior, she likely had a better understanding of society. Particularly the social implications surrounding communicators. She's 8. She is 8. What's up with that? I don't get it at all. But we can't even use telepathy yet. They could do nothing but deny Yuri's observation, which only made her smile sadly. That's true, but still. Just because we know that doesn't mean we can convince them to believe it too. Natsuhiko just couldn't comprehend what Yuri was implying. But he took her words and facial expression and engraved them into his heart. And that's when he stopped caring about BC. And that was possibly the first time Natsuhiko began to feel that he couldn't understand what was on other people's minds. But he was still okay with that. If he acquired the skill of empathy to read the minds of others, then he would be able to understand the feelings of those who distanced themselves from him. That's explicitly not how it works. They've called out repeatedly that people with empathy can only read the minds of people who have opened themselves to it. At least, that's what he had hoped. His second major turning point was the incident 9 years ago. No! Yuri used to be calm no matter what the situation, but that all changed after the incident. I don't want to go outside. I hate it. I don't want to go. Don't make me leave. Let me stay here. Natsuhiko found himself stunned and dumbfounded when faced with Yuri's refusal to leave the house. Yuri's transfiguration made Natsuhiko sad, dejected, and regretful to the core, as well as a little frightened. Ever since then, Yuri stopped going to school, and her BC ability never improved. And Natsuhiko lost the motivation to train his BC ability as well. For if one day he were to become able to read Yuri's mind, and what he saw there was resentment towards him, then he would probably never recover. While he did want to know what was in her heart, his fear of actually knowing far outweighed his curiosity to know. So instead, he swore at the very least to watch over her, even if his oath was worth nothing more than a pittance of atonement, even if staying by her side had nothing to do with actually understanding her. Even now, Natsuhiko could not completely cast aside his fear of other people. His fear of knowing what lied in other people's minds. It's what lay in other people's minds, and his fear of knowing what clouded his own mind as well. That was why he kept his distance from his classmates. But how is it with Salu? He thought back to the day she transferred in. Salu avoided the other classmates and sat in her seat all alone. Does she avoid everyone in the same way that ordinary people avoid communicators? That was somehow similar to what Natsuhiko did, which was why he couldn't help but say, "Don't tell yourself you weren't meant to interact with other people." Huh? It's true that we can't understand other people's feelings. We all have times when we're confused, times when we get scared. But we should still consider other people's feelings, shouldn't we? Natsuhiko thought that perhaps he wasn't the most qualified of people to speak on this subject. Buddy, you sure ain't. But you're what she's got, so go ahead. But regardless, he continued. Right now, as I speak, I'm trying in my own way to consider your feelings, Salu. But is it really pointless for me to try? So, can you tell anything about my feelings? No, I can't. Because I'm not you, see? Right. So in the end, it really was pointless. You're wrong. When I say we can't understand other people's feelings, I don't just mean you and me, Salu. Nobody truly can. Huh? It's not just me, but everyone? Sounds like maybe the writer reinvented autism, but more offensive? Combined with a form of face blindness. I'm torn, because, okay, so to be clear to chat and people watching on YouTube, I am autistic. I was diagnosed in my early 20s, and it made a whole lot about my childhood make more sense. It is a struggle for me to read social cues and social situations. To the point where I've forced myself to be hypersensitive to it in order to navigate those situations, and I still am unsure a lot of the time. Being unable to read other people's feelings at all is an oversimplification of the condition. It's sometimes true. It's often true to some degree. But it's not off the wall for an autistic character to have that as a major trait. Especially a young autistic character who hasn't gone through a lifetime of learning how to communicate with people. It took me a lot of practice, and that was before I knew I was autistic, so I didn't really have a guide to go off of. So I didn't have a lot of help, but it is possible. her referring to herself as defective echoes my early attitude about myself. Like, I would joke about it. I wouldn't ever be truly super serious when I called myself defective, but it was a thing in the back of my mind when the subject came up that was disheartening. So I'm not going to say her referring to herself as defective is wrong either. But I'm keeping a close fucking eye on how they're going to characterize her from now on, and how the narrative's going to treat her. So we'll see how this goes. Also, there is some truth to people not really being able to read or understand other people's feelings. There's a lot of empathy and understanding that you can extend to people, and you can get pretty good at reading what other people are feeling, but you can't know 100% what's inside somebody else's head, or what's inside their heart. But I'm not sure telling the autistic girl that that nobody can read feelings is the right tack to take. I'm a very solutions-oriented person. So I'm not the best person to explain this to a child, but I also have, like, Natsuhiko is also not operating on a first person understanding of autism. So it's understandable that he might take a weird tack to cheer her up or motivate her. I'm going to be keeping a close fucking eye on this character. It's not just me, but everyone? Yeah, that's right. After all, there are so many things different between you and me. Our genders, our abilities, and so much more. So there's no way I can understand your feelings. And I'm sure that's a universal truth that applies to any two people. You can have some understanding of people. Natsuhiko could not hope to know the world as Salu observed it, and thus neither could he hope to have a complete understanding of her feelings. The same went for Yuri. Even with empathy, the best he could ever hope for was a glimpse of a small facet of her mind. And that's to say nothing of his fear of learning something he shouldn't. He had always thought this way, but don't you think we should still try our best to understand each other regardless? Natsuhiko vocalized an idea that he himself had always been rejecting. But as he vocalized it, he gradually became more and more aware of how it was an idea that he had originally always held. You don't need a full understanding of what's on other people's minds, but as long as you keep striving for it, in other words, as long as you keep other people in consideration, then I'm sure things will turn out for the best, both for you and for those you interact with. And unless you afford that kindness to others, nobody will be kind to you, will they? That might be the wrong message to send to the autistic child, but maybe that works. I'm also torn about her assistive device because It's useful, and it will always be good to supplement her understanding, but I think during your developmental years, it would be good to try to learn this, to put the effort in rather than relying on an assistive device, because it's not like she and I are missing a leg and need a prosthetic or a crutch. It can be learned. It's difficult. It takes a while, and you're never 100% equal in that aspect to people who come preloaded with that innate understanding of social cues and social situations. But I don't know how having an assistive device would affect her ability to learn it. It could just be used to confirm what she thinks. I guess actually it could be used to give her a baseline of this is what the person you're talking to is thinking and feeling. So observe their traits and the traits of the conversation you've been having and work from there. And learn to associate that. That could work. Okay. Yeah. That's the first time anyone has ever said that to me. Well, it's the first time I've ever said it to anyone, too. You're strange. I don't have the slightest idea what thought process led you to say something like that, Natsuhiko. Yeah, you don't have to understand that either. I don't? That way of thinking's just a lot less stressful, isn't it? Salu hung her head as if deep in thought. She eventually looked up and asked Natsuhiko a question. So basically, you're saying that's the reason you can frantically search for Mashiro while simultaneously cursing her name? Huh? Yeah, exactly. Because of the unexpected turn his conversation with Salu had taken, Natsuhiko had forgotten about Mashiro for a moment. I don't understand what she's thinking, but unless I find her and ask her myself, I'll never even get close to understanding her feelings, will I? Is that what it means to worry about someone? Yeah, probably. I see. The dead silence has been so awkward. All right, Salu, hi. Salu nodded with that and continued. I still don't understand. I don't understand how your feelings are causing your words and actions to contradict, Natsuhiko. But it did make me happy to hear that people in general can't understand other people's feelings. It helps a little to know that. Thank you. Point with Salu. Natsuhiko was startled by her honest expression of gratitude. It wasn't anything you needed to thank me for, really. It's just... Just what? Nah, it's nothing. Natsuhiko swallowed his words. The words were, even if people can't come to an understanding, perhaps they can come to a compromise. That's a big part of it, too. The social contract. He did not say it because he thought it might just confuse Salu again. And then, after Salu stared blankly at Natsuhiko for a while, she suddenly glared at him as if she remembered something. That said, I worry about you too, Natsuhiko. Huh? Why? The way Mashiro blindly accepted unclear information and the way you're aimlessly chasing after her seem much the same in my perspective. Yeah, that's true. It's not like you'll find her by searching blindly. Alright, let's divide the city into a grid. So first, let's calm down and think about a way to find her. I'll help. Yeah. Natsuhiko replied enthusiastically to Salu's proposition. Well, we could have Salu try calling her. Does Salu have a phone? Natsuhiko and Salu spoke as they looked at the map posted at the bus stop. How do you suppose we search for one girl in a town this big? Have you tried calling her? Yeah, but she wouldn't pick up. Salu pondered for a second before coming up with an answer. If you can't reach her by phone, then how about using telepathy? Oh, good luck with that. Huh? When we first met at the scene of the accident, you used powerful telepathy. Can't you use that to contact Mashiro without having to know where she is? Yeah, and everyone else in the city. Do we really want to start a panic by talking about terrorists? Telepathy, huh? According to Ukita, Natsuhiko's telepathy apparently reached as far as a kilometer away. And he knew Mashiro's characteristic brain waveform quite well after all the practice they had done. True, if he knows who he's searching for, he can target her. But Natsuhiko had never consciously used telepathy on his own. Can I do it? Mashiro said that the trick to using telepathy was to focus on the words you want to convey from the bottom of your heart. It might be amateurish thinking on my part, but I think you can do it now that you've sincerely worried about Mashiro. Yeah, maybe I can. There's directional telepathy, he doesn't have to do it shotgun style. Yeah, but he doesn't know where Mashiro is. So in order to reach her, he'd have to send it out in every direction. Broadwave it. If he's not targeting her specific brainwaves, everyone in the city will hear. If he is, apparently just she will hear. Okay, got it. I'll give it a try. Natsuhiko resolved himself and placed a finger to his temple. It was the same basic stance Mashiro had used to facilitate telepathy. Okay, I'll cheer you on. Go for it, Natsuhiko. Sorry, please be quiet for a second. I need to concentrate. Okay. Salu fell silent. Sorry, Salu. In the midst of the soft sound of the pouring rain, Natsuhiko concentrated with all his mind. He couldn't dare use mass untargeted telepathy. He absolutely needed to make sure his message had directionality. First, I need to make myself keenly aware of Mashiro's characteristic brain waveform. Her waveform was type 2. Diabetes! Okay. So I might want to raise my self-esteem value here. Do I raise my self-esteem value? I'm going to raise my self-esteem value to max and keep Natsuhiko and Mashiro at the same level. And I just saved, so we can come back to this if that's incorrect. The waveform associated with gentle people who try their hardest to help others. He thought of her and focused hard on the words he wanted to tell her. Mashiro, where are you? Why won't you pick up? Salu and I are worried. Contact us if you're okay. He mentally repeated that message over and over, without thinking about anything else at all. And then suddenly, the surrounding sound of the rain disappeared. For a second, he thought the rain had stopped. But that wasn't it. The rain was still falling. He merely stopped hearing the rain because his 5 senses had dampened. And in place of his sense of hearing, he gained another sense. A strange 6th sense beyond his usual 5. He's got empathy now. What's going on? It's like I can feel my own brain cranking. The world was full to the brim with BC particles, and Natsuhiko felt as if he could sense their very movement through his brain. This is BC? Natsuhiko concentrated even further. He focused on the complex, minute electrical signals that formed his desired message. Mashiro, where are you? Contact me. The message loaded onto the BC particles in his brain and were expelled out into the world. Hiko. Natsuhiko? Eventually, he snapped back to reality once he heard Salu's voice. What happened? You suddenly turned pale and surprised me. Are you okay? Yeah, probably. Now that he thought about it, he remembered what Enna had said. BC use can cause the five senses to dampen, and in certain cases, even vital signs like body temperature and pulse can drop. That said, he hadn't heard a thing about complete hearing loss or turning pale. What if Salu's telling the truth and Natsuhiko just used empathy to read her mind instead of her sending out? The thing is, Mashiro heard it too. It's possible that both Natsuhiko and Mashiro were using empathy, but Mashiro heard Salu's instructions as well. So it's the Yuri problem. Like, who can perceive what and why? Perhaps those were side effects of the extreme concentration. Well, I guess if I was able to concentrate that hard, maybe it actually did reach Mashiro. That would be assuming Mashiro was currently less than a kilometer away from them. With that thought in mind, they waited for a little while, but still did not receive any contact from her. Maybe it failed. Once that utterance eventually left his lips, an electronic sound chimed from within Natsuhiko's pocket. What's that? An email! Why does your email make phone ringing noises? Natsuhiko took out his PDA and opened his email. The display showed the following response. Subject, holy cow! Sender, Mashiro Toba. Body, was that your telepathy, Natsuhiko? So you really can use telepathy now, huh? Congrats! But it's a little disappointing that your first use of telepathy was to send such a cut-and-dry businessy message. Incidentally, I'm at the White Tiger Gate. I'll go to school once I'm done with my business, so no need to worry. The White Tiger Gate? Why would she be at a place like that? Is that the bad part of town? Natsuhiko cocked his head after he finished reading the email. What's that? It's a city gate on the west side of town. Rokume City was surrounded by a fence in order to maintain public security. But obviously there were entrances in the fence. There were 6 city gates in total, and the White Tiger Gate was one of them. Your telepathy reached that far? Looks like it. The White Tiger Gate was about 2 kilometers away from where they were. An effective range of 2 kilometers made his latest use of telepathy even more far-reaching than what he did at the scene of the accident. It was hard to believe all of a sudden, but if Mashiro said she heard it, then it was probably true. So what do we do? Mashiro's saying she'll go to school once she's done with her business, so should we meet her there? No, let's go to her. I want to know what exactly this business of hers is. Roger, I'll accompany you. It was not a distance that was impossible to run. So Natsuhiko and Salu began running towards the city gate. The city gate. It was something of an inspection booth established on the main road that connected the city to the outside world. A guard was stationed at a box nearby. All people wishing to leave or enter the city were required to go through the proper paperwork beforehand. Then, once at the gate, passage required proof of citizenship and a strict security check. The gates were thus seen as something of a status symbol befitting of a government-designated top-secret city. As they got close, Salu muttered, "Kind of an off-putting place." "Oh, you think so?" It almost gives the impression that the whole city is locked down. It kinda is. You're just reading too much into it. The city was obviously not a prison. Obviously. Definitely. Absolutely not a prison. Couldn't be. It was a little bit of a hassle, but normal citizens were certainly able to leave and enter the city. The gates and fence were actually dependable blessings, since they served to blockade suspicious characters from entering the city. Well, I guess it's not somewhere you'd like to stay too long. Let's find Mashiro quick and head back. And with that, they looked around and found her soon enough. She was at a bus stop near the gate, seemingly waiting for a bus. She hadn't noticed them. They rushed up to her and called out. "Hey, what are you doing skipping school, Mashiro?" "Huh? You two came over here?" "Of course we did. You had us worried." It's not like I asked you to come." "What?" "I told you last night that I can't count on you, didn't I?" Mashiro high, Natsuhiko mid. "The terrorist investigation case is under my jurisdiction, boys. Hands off." That sort of thing. Mashiro still seemed to be mad about yesterday after all. Natsuhiko didn't understand what rubbed her the wrong way, but he did know that once she got like this, it was hard to get her to stop. Mashiro point, but still, isn't she being a little too stubborn? She probably had her own reason for being mad. But Natsuhiko laid off on that subject as he piled on the questions. "Okay, that's fine for now. I admit I wasn't very receptive of you yesterday. But why are you searching for them yourself? Didn't I tell you to send a report to the police or the security department?" "Oh, that's the wrong tack to take right now, Natsuhiko." "And I did, of course, last night." "Oh, okay, fair enough, she did. But neither of them would take me seriously at all." Natsuhiko thought that was the obvious response, but didn't say anything. "But then why are you alone at a place like this?" "Well, since I couldn't count on the police or the security department either, I decided I had no choice but to go around the 6 city gates myself." "They're probably already inside, Mashiro." Excuse me. "I've been asking all the guards if they've seen any terroristy kind of people." "I don't think they'd tell you, and I think things would be different if they had seen them." "At least she's trying, yeah." "That's kind of straightforward. So, any results?" "This is the 6th gate I've been to, but they've all told me that nobody with a suspicious background has come in or out. I'd imagine. It was unthinkable that terrorists could infiltrate this city that easily. But optimism like that is the greatest danger. Mr. Ukita also said that there have been more people who hate communicators in the city lately, remember? So you might not be an entirely unrelated party in all of this, Natsuhiko." "Well, that may be true, but don't you think there's quite a logical leap to get from what Mr. Ukita said to conclude that there must be terrorists around and whatnot?" Mashiro fell silent in mortification. But that's when Salu cut in. "No, it really might be best not to be so optimistic. Ukita gave a lecture on nuclear power and scared the shit out of the kids and then reassured them that Labo was safe." "No, it really might be best not to be so optimistic. There was that dangerous object that was set at school today, after all." "Dangerous object? What's that all about?" Well, at lunch break there was this announcement. As soon as Natsuhiko finished explaining what happened, there was a bomb at school. Oh yeah, and he also told Natsuhiko that people heard him from a kilometer away. "Well, no, we don't know for sure if it was a bomb. Just making a guess based off of what the announcement said. But it very well could be a bomb. Let's go back to school for now, you two." That's what we were planning to do in the first place. And right on cue, the bus arrived. How convenient! The 3 of them boarded and headed for school. Would have been funny if The bus took another 5 minutes to show up. They just stood in silence, awkwardly. As they rode the bus, Mashiro muttered in a stiff voice. I hope the school's okay. Yeah, he claimed the untargeted telepathy was the reason he warned Natsuhiko about strange things possibly happening around him from then on. But I'm calling bullshit because Ukita was point blank for that blast. He wouldn't have known. Right? Like, he warned Natsuhiko about that while he was getting into the ambulance. Right after getting pulled from the wreckage. He was at point blank for that mass untargeted telepathy. He wouldn't have known it was found. It was heard a kilometer away. So I'm calling bullshit on that reasoning, or on that claim. I'm sure it is. At the least, I don't think it's been blasted to bits. I sure hope so. And as they had that conversation, the bus dropped them off in front of school, but... Huh? The grounds were awfully silent. The commotion seemed to have died down already. Was there really a dangerous object set here? There was an announcement to that effect, at least. We don't know the particulars either. As Salu began to speak, they heard an angry voice coming from somewhere. Hey, you kids! Ah, Professor! They looked to see Enna rushing over to them. Jeez, don't go off and do things on your own. You had me worried. I'm sorry, Miss Enna. It's my fault. Oh, why hello there, Miss Toba. Didn't you have a cold or something? No, it wasn't that. Just some minor business. You can't take school off for just some minor business. Sorry. Mashiro quietly bowed her head. By the way, Professor, what happened with all the commotion about the dangerous object? Oh, seems like it was just a false alarm. A false alarm? There was something that looked like a time bomb set in one of the bathrooms, but it turned out to be just a toy. A toy? What does that all mean? I don't know. Somebody's bad idea of a prank, perhaps. Incidents like this seem to be happening a lot lately, though. It's so troublesome. Enna didn't seem to know the entire truth behind the situation either. I see. I guess that means there's no point in us staying here too long, then. Let's go, guys. Huh? Mashiro pulled Natsuhiko and Salu by the arm and ran off. Enna shouted in surprise from behind. Hey, where do you three think you're going? Classes are starting back up again, so don't just walk away. Sorry, just some minor business. So when do they tell Enna about this? Is that going to be today? They're running out of time because Enna knows something that they told her by the 16th. It's the 14th today, and tomorrow there's no school. Sorry, just some minor business. Like I just said, minor business is not an acceptable excuse to skip class. Hey! Her voice eventually faded away into the distance. Hey, Mashiro, what do you think you're doing? Mashiro, you're hurting my arm. Once Natsuhiko and Salu finally complained, Mashiro stopped and answered. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow's Sunday anyway, so any lingering agitation will have abated by the start of next week. I mean, Miss Enna is soft on Natsuhiko after all. Hey, but even if they returned to school now, they'd only make it back in time for 6th period at best anyway. Enna's impressions bothered him just a little bit, but Natsuhiko set that aside and instead turned to Mashiro. Well, fine. So what? What do you want us to do since you dragged us away with you? Well, actually, if it's okay with you, I really want you guys to help me with the search for terrorists. Huh? It doesn't look like I can get you to believe me, but... I think they did have truancy officers in Japan. Because in 13 Sentinels, there's one in 1985. I think that's what he is. It doesn't look like I can get you to believe me, but I don't want to just sit by and watch as a possible crisis befalls on the city I live in. There shouldn't be an "on" there. But even if there actually are terrorists, it'd be hard for us to stop them on our own, wouldn't it? True, but just because something looks impossible doesn't mean it's okay to sit by and do nothing, does it? Salu gasped. Perhaps she was thinking those words resembled what Natsuhiko had told her earlier. Mashiro's words made Natsuhiko reconsider his own thoughts slightly as well. I guess words really can't persuade her, huh? Can't persuade her, huh? Extra comma, proofreaders please. But if you were to leave Mashiro as is, she would probably just start acting on her own. Even if there weren't any terrorists, Natsuhiko had to admit that he'd worry about Mashiro if he let her out of his sight. Fine, I guess I'll play along with Mashiro until she's satisfied. Okay, Mashiro, if you're going to so far as to say all that, proofreaders please. This too doesn't belong. I'll help you out. Huh? Really? On the one condition that it'll just be for today for now. I'll consider what I'll do tomorrow when tomorrow comes. School bus outside just stopped and started backing up wildly. Huh. I wonder why. And it's moving forward again. Did he just boot somebody out in front of their house? Oh, hi, Sean's girlfriend's kid is back. Cool. That's more than good enough for me, Natsuhiko. Mashiro finally smiled. What about you, Salu? I cannot recommend something as dangerous as searching for terrorists. But if you say so, Natsuhiko, then fine. I'll help too. You too, Salu? Yay, I'm so happy. Thanks so much, you two. It was so discouraging to do it alone. She's so selfish, Natsuhiko thought with a wry smile. Okay then, where should we head next? Where should we? The first thing that bothers me is that the bomb threat at school was a false alarm. Doesn't that strike you as strange? They could be lying to try to keep the students calm. It makes me worry about the reality of the other incidents, too. Other incidents? You know, all that commotion that's been going on in town lately, like those fires or the objectionable literature. Are they censoring books? Natsuhiko recalled the news he heard several days before. Early this morning, Rokume City's BC Training Center received objectionable literature from an extremist group. Last night, a fire broke out at the BC Development Center, a research facility in Rokume City. 6 research buildings burned down. Okay, so hang on. By objectionable literature, do they mean like a manifesto or a threat? That's not usually how you describe such a thing, but I guess the translation might be weird. Maybe that's how they describe it in Japan? Oh, that. Come to think of it, didn't Anna just say there were many similar incidents happening lately? In that case, we should try asking the people who have been targeted. Which place got the objectionable literature again? Pretty sure it was the BC Training Center. Okay, then let's head right on over there. Huh? But that's a little far. What? It's not that far a distance. Come on, let's go. I fed you an hour ago, Cobweb. I know you want me to pet you, but I'm busy. I'll scratch your head a little. cutie. Mashiro ran off again, nearly dragging the other two behind her, towards the BC Training Center, situated in the heart of the city. Wow! I can't pet you right now. Sorry. Towards the BC Training Center, situated in the heart of the city. Alright, I'm going to save. Huh. What do you mean the BC Training Center? This just looks like the shopping mall again. I know, Cobweb. Oh, you're so cute, but I already fed you, and I can't. Oh, I'm sniffing my finger. Oh, yeah. Actually, how much of this chapter is left? Because it feels like we've still got a couple hours of this chapter to go. This is the longest chapter in Route B. Okay. How would you feel about calling it here? Because this seems like a good stopping point. One thing I'd like you to see before we stop, it'll be in this scene. Okay, cool. Cobweb, pawing at me is not going to help. The BC Training Center. It was a sort of gym provided for people who wished to hone their BC skills. The three of them stopped a man about to enter the building to ask him about the objectionable literature. Huh, the content of the objectionable literature? Yes, we just want to know a bit about it. He was a trainer for the center, who seemed to be in his early 20s. The trainer looked at the kids suspiciously. Before that, what are you kids? Some junior detective team? Yes, something like that. We're allies of justice, moving through town to protect the peace of all its citizens. I don't think that's going to go over well, Mashiro. I didn't think there were still kids that played games like that. Well, you kids are cute, so we'll give it to you easy. Just don't tell anyone else, okay? He looked at Mashiro and Salu and spoke with a broad grin on his face. Well, I guess it basically went like this. Participate in any further proliferation of BC, and punishment shall be bestowed upon you. What a stiff and humorless guy, eh? They stuffed the postbox with that message. By the way, I was the first to find it. Man, was it ridiculous. Huh, so you mean you didn't feel any sort of a sense of impending crisis? Like hell I did. Well, I did send a report to the security department, I guess, but that just backfired and caused a disturbance on its own. As she heard the trainer's story, Mashiro whispered into Natsuhiko's ear. So it really was an anti-BC letter then. Yeah, I guess. As the two of them were having that private discussion, this time Salu asked a question. The report caused a disturbance? Well, you see, those guys at the security department pressed in droves. For our defense, apparently. But it was just objectionable literature. Did it really warrant that much of a disturbance? Well, I can't say I don't understand where the security department was coming from. After all, the objectionable literature was signed by none other than Q. Oh. Predictor of QAnon, root double before crime after days. But none other than Q. Q? This game can be weirdly prescient sometimes? Yeah. Mashiro shook as she heard that letter. What's wrong, Mashiro? Why the sudden outburst? What's Q? Whoa, have you kids been living under a rock? They're infamous on the net, you know? Well, I don't really use the net that much. I'll explain it to you guys later. Anyway, Mr. Trainer, did Q do anything afterwards? Beats me, but I doubt those Q freaks would bother targeting a facility as shabby as this. It could have just been some sort of imitator. Frickin' QAnon. The way he spoke about Q made them seem like some giant sort of organization. As Natsuhiko fell into confused silence, the trainer continued. Well, that's about all I can talk about. The security department rounded up all the objectionable literature, so it's no longer here. I see. Well, thank you very much. So long, my allies of justice. And with that, the trainer entered the building, leaving Natsuhiko and Salu to quickly ask Mashiro the pressing question. So, Mashiro, what was that all about? What was Q, was it? Well, you see, Q is... Mashiro made a meek face as she explained the organization to Natsuhiko and Salu. Q is the largest domestic extremist organization that operates on anti-communicator sentiments. They are apparently a dangerous group whose activities include bomb threats and coercion, and, depending on the situation, they don't hesitate to use direct action. An organization like that exists? He obviously knew of the existence of anti-BC protest groups and ideology, but he had never heard of an organization that operated at a level dangerous enough to be called extremists and terrorists. Well, I guess it's understandable to not have heard of them. I mean, it's not the most searchable of names. But they do exist for certain, though, right? Yeah, it would make sense if the voice I heard on the bus was that of a Q member. Q, by the way, the real-life Q from the last decade of bullshit, was one guy who was actively fucking with people, who then got imitated by a bunch of other people that jumped on the bandwagon to try to cause problems. I forget who was proven to be currently in charge of the Q account. Because I think there are specific accounts on 4chan that always have the same account ID when they make a post, but I don't know. I've never used 4chan. But yeah, Q is just some grifter taking advantage of the most vulnerable of gullible right-wing nutjobs to cause chaos and then start a movement. And it's led to a lot of damage in the real world. Yeah, it would make sense if the voice I heard on the bus was that of a Q member. A dangerous thought like ending this town's history certainly is something that Q would agree with. You say that, but have there been any concrete instances of them performing any destructive acts? There have. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the aftermath of one such incident yourself, Natsuhiko. Oh, did Q attack Labo and cause the fire that killed Yuri? Huh? It's a little far, but why don't we head over there? Natsuhiko pondered that question for a second before nodding, chills running down his spine the whole time. Mashiro guided Natsuhiko and Salu to a certain place in the outskirts of town. Oh, hello. There lay the ruins of a burned-down hospital. Ooh. Soot still clung to the site in places, and shards of glass were scattered about everywhere. This is the old Rokume City Hospital ruins. As I said before, it's the remains of Q's destructive activity. This was a place that Natsuhiko certainly did remember. When he was young, he had come here with Yuri and Mashiro on a dare. Remember now, Natsuhiko? Oh, is this where they get attacked, I wonder? Yeah, though at the time I didn't realize this place had that kind of story behind it. Was it burned this badly? Proofreaders, come on. Mashiro took one look around the burned vestiges before answering. Long ago, this was the biggest hospital in the city. All the citizens were familiar with it. But one night, 16 years ago, it was set on fire. The night of Natsuhiko's birth. And the ones who set the fire were said to be Q members. It was the first incident they had caused. Did they catch the criminal? Yeah, at least the one that set fire to this place. What do you mean, at least? There wasn't just one criminal. Dozens of fires went off in the city at the same time that night. They're still not sure if they caught all of the criminals. That incident has come to be called the Great Rokame City Arson. The Great Rokame City Arson? Natsuhiko faintly remembered hearing about that incident before. Unfortunately, all he remembered was that such a thing had happened. Since there were so many victims in that incident, it was not an easy subject to broach. Furthermore, Natsuhiko never considered actively attempting to research it. But Mashiro, how do you know this was the work of Q? I mean, they probably claimed credit for it. It was simple enough to find out with a short net search last night. So what I'm about to say might just be secondhand information from the net, but Q apparently formed around that time. Since there were many communicators in the city at the time, it was an obvious target for them. QAnon first started in 2016, right? When Trump was getting elected, or did it start in 2017 after he had already been elected? Either way, this Q would be 2014, which would have predated that. Since there were many communicators in the city at the time, it was an obvious target for them. Did they already call themselves such a weird name back then? No, the first name Q took was the Anti-BC League. Anti-BC League members were arrested for the Great Rokame City Arson, but apparently it wasn't until after those members were discharged from prison that they began to call themselves Q. Why were they let out of prison that fast? The reason and origin behind the name are still unknown, though. I see, but the old name sounds more terrorist-like to me, though. In any case, Mashiro, if the fires happened over 16 years ago, why hasn't this building been demolished yet? Maybe there's a secret lab underneath it. Someone probably didn't want it to be demolished. Someone who didn't want the effects of the incident to fade away. They looked around. Sure enough, the place looked like a scene frozen in time. It had probably been left alone as is for 16 years. And yet, the incident gradually faded away from the public's mind, and likely nobody ever visited anymore. What happened with Q afterwards? There are rumors that they target areas with high communicator populations and have conducted several destructive activities. There was the Sarubetsu City, BC laboratory explosion 12 years ago. The Shichi Seidai Parapsychology Department arson 11 years ago. The Ushioi City Hall siege 9 years ago. The Enku City anthrax incident 7 years ago. The Koganahama arsenic water purification plant poisoning 6 years ago. Oh, that must have actually gotten a few people. Quite a few people. Q was behind all of those? Natsuhiko was surprised. He had heard about all of those incidents on the morning news. However, none of those incidents were reported as terrorism. The information on the net had a bunch of ambiguous parts, but that's what it all pointed to, at least. On the net, huh? Natsuhiko never really liked the internet. It allows things like Q to flourish. He didn't quite understand why himself, But if he had to describe it, it would probably be because of the apparent abundance of dubious information, like what Mashiro was talking about. At any rate, if such a nasty organization actually existed, you'd think I'd at least hear about them once. It's only normal that you wouldn't know the name of an extremist organization. Japan has had many different extremist organizations in the past, but you can't name a single one, can you? No, but Q's different, right? It is pretty relevant to Natsuhiko's life. You can't say their actions would be totally unrelated to us, can you? Their existence would be important for people of this town especially to know about. Mashiro made a complicated expression as Natsuhiko said this. No, it's quite the opposite, actually. This town deliberately neglects to report on incidents involving Q. To avoid a panic, or for a more nefarious reason? Why is that? The reason appears to be to not cause serious public anxiety. Q constantly conducts destructive activities targeting communicators. If that truth were widely reported on, what kind of impression do you think it'd leave on all the communicators living here? It would obviously cause a state of panic. It could very well strain tensions between communicators and ordinary people. Ever since we were born, we've been living in the protective communicator shelter that is this city, so we've never had to keep it in mind. But areas outside this city apparently report Q's wrongdoings as is. Strife between communicators and ordinary people still seems to be deep-rooted. And I think that's why Rokume City's population has grown recently. Perhaps communicators are moving in to avoid persecution and terrorism. That last statement jogged Natsuhiko's memory. 10 years ago, when Yuri moved into Rokume City. Have I seen the thing you wanted me to see, or am I about to see it in the Yuri flashback? When he had asked her why she moved at the time, she said it was because they measured my BC attitude and found out it was rank C. Natsuhiko had thought that she simply meant that they had moved to Rokume City because of its tax and education benefits for the communicators, but... You have it was just Q. Okay. Yeah, that is oddly prescient. Man. This game. That wasn't it? Was she persecuted in another town or felt threatened by acts of terrorism, and that's why they escaped to Rokume City? Even as recently as 10 years ago, understanding of communicators was still insufficient. So it wasn't any stretch of the imagination to believe that Yuri's family did indeed seek refuge in Rokume. I can't believe that's what the outside world is like. Even though Natsuhiko had only heard half of the story, Mashiro's sense of impending danger was gradually getting through to him. But in addition to his fear, he felt doubt about something else. But don't you find something odd, then? If they're that fearsome an organization, then why were these last incidents so half-baked? Half-baked? I mean, the dangerous object at school and the objectionable literature at the training center only caused temporary panic before things quickly returned to normal, right? True, it did seem like they were merely trying to get a rise out of the people. Did they just cause meaningless panic so they could watch and laugh somewhere? For what purpose? Mashiro had no answer. Natsuhiko looked around the burned ruins and spoke. Say, Mashiro, maybe you really are just overthinking things. She's not going to be happy you said that. Overthinking? I get the feeling that the trainer guy was right, that the last few cases were just the work of people pretending to be Q. Natsuhiko, don't tell me you really don't believe me? No, I do believe you. It's just... Natsuhiko hesitated for a second. Would a terrorist really talk about ending the town's history loud enough for someone else to hear on a bus? I mean, if they were speaking inside their head and Mashiro used empathy, it seems way too over the top. If you were seriously going to attempt terrorism, you wouldn't want to let your plan out of the bag, would you? True, I agree. I was sitting next to you, and yet I didn't hear anything. But I did hear it, I swear. Mashiro spoke in a strong tone of voice. Her obstinacy seemed suspicious to Natsuhiko. Say, Mashiro, you're not hiding anything from us by any chance, are you? Is there some other reason you believe there's a terrorist plot and you're just not telling us? Mashiro's eyes widened. No, of course not. That reaction alone was enough to convince Natsuhiko. She was indeed hiding something. Mashiro, I'm just worried about you. If there's anything on your mind, let's talk it out. All right, this is going to be a long scene, so we're going to call it here. We are going to call it here. My throat is sore, and I could use a rest. Excuse me. Yeah, Q is very funny. Okay. So we've gotten more hints. We've confirmed that Salu sees and hears Yuri. We're getting into the thick of Q. I can't believe it's fucking Q. I wonder how long it'll be in the real world before people can write fictional organizations named Q or fictional entities named Q without it being weird because of QAnon. I wonder how long it's going to be. Like, is that cult going to stick around for a while? I don't know. Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to read my schedule and get off. Before I do, I would like to plug my Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/LoreweaverStreams. You can also find it in the description of the YouTube video or with the ! Patreon command in Twitch chat. I make my living off of Patreon. It's my sole source of income. And I make enough to pay my rent and my bills, but I don't really make much beyond that. I'm mostly just scraping by. And I'd really like to have some stability, some savings for medical emergencies, for if I need to replace stuff, stuff I haven't had for a very long time. So if you could go to my Patreon and pledge $1 a month or $1 per stream or anything in between, pledge a bunch per stream if you really want to change my life, I would be grateful. There's also a slot open where you can pick a game for me to play once a month, so grab that before it's gone. I'm grateful to everybody who pledges, because you're the reason I have this strange, silly job that I love so much. If it weren't for you guys, I would still be a telemarketer, or a burger flipper, or some other equally horrible, soul-sucking job. So, thank you. As for the schedule, tomorrow we'll be playing Yakuza 0 for a patron. Saturday will, of course, be our weekly Final Fantasy XIV stream. Sunday, we're actually going to be playing Hades 2. I've changed that schedule a little bit. I'll be doing a short stream of that, seeing what the game is like, seeing some fun stuff, and then I will be putting it up until it officially releases, and then doing a playthrough of it then. Then on Monday through Friday, we'll be playing Paper Mario. Going to finish that game up in preparation for Thousand Year Door. So that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.